All right, how about now? Do we have audio now, everyone? Excellent. All right, I gotta join this call with Mr. Girl and we'll get it all set up. Forgive me, I am sick, tired, haven't eaten, but in a good mood, all right?
For me.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh wait, my chat can't though. Hello. Okay, now we can all
Ooh,
hear you.
I'm gonna kill myself if that audio stays this way. I lied. Twitch, don't ban me. I'm doing
Yeah,
just
and
fine.
me either. I can't see you.
Let me figure that out. All right, everyone. You know what time it is. It's Boomer Tech Support time, where Mr. Girl and I spend the first 30 minutes of this stream seeing who can get their audio or video working first.
That's right.
So I turned on my virtual camera, and because of
Okay.
that, it's supposed to work. But I guess I'm oh, can you see me now?
Hey. There we go.
Can you ask your chat if your audio is shocking for them as well?
You know what? People were complaining about this last night. Is my audio horrible?
It's
There.
clipping, so turn down your gain. You know it's bad
I
when
think it's.
Lauren knows what's going on.
I try this. Right click me in Discord and turn down my volume there. See if that fixes it.
You're at like medium. I've got the
Try turning it.
slider.
Try.
Turning
Yeah,
it down
slide it
more?
down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, speak. Sorry.
Hello, hello, hello. Test, test, test.
It's still
Test, test,
clipping
test.
on your end. Chat, am I crazy?
My chat says it sounds good.
Maybe it's just my Discord then. My headphones.
Um, Try turning me down more. Just keep going until.
Until I can't
Oh,
hear
okay.
you.
Turn me down so you can hear me. Turn me down in Discord and turn me up in OBS. That's what
Yeah,
I would
that's
do.
what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah, you're still super quiet, but whatever.
Someone
So
said
be
it's my
it.
Discord settings. What Discord settings do I have to change?
Yeah, I'm getting this like oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
I can turn my
staticky.
oh. They said I can turn my gain in Discord down. Okay. Whoa, my
Uh my chat are saying he sounds bad on this stream, but on his stream you both sound great. So maybe it is me. That's
okay.
weird.
No. I think let me turn my gain down in Discord. Okay, is that better?
Much
Test,
better.
test, test,
Okay.
test, test.
Then I'm
Okay.
gonna turn you up. Okay, there we go. Whew.
Okay, so I turn my input in Discord down. Got it.
All
Okay.
right. Oh, I don't even have you on screen yet. Wow. Here I am
Whoa.
thinking we've figured it all out.
It's kind of rude. Okay,
Too
I'm gonna give
soon.
you.
Too soon. All right.
I'm gonna make us the same size.
That's very polite.
I'm gonna make it so your head is the same size as my head. That was a problem last night. With the guy with I was talking to Wicked Supreme and his head was huge.
I don't know
I
who
just made
half these
everything
people
isolated.
are that don't have real people names. Do you know what I mean? They've got like.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. Do you know my name? To
No,
be
what's your
fair,
name?
Mr. Girl.
I know your real person name.
Max.
Okay, got it. Sorted.
Max Carson.
Ooh. Look at this. I've almost got him on screen, guys. Are you guys enjoying this tech support ASMR? Everyone in the chat here. Drink Corona, WTF. Listen, I know everyone in my chat is like the demon on my shoulder, but we're trying not to drink on this stream anymore. That's the goal.
Oh,
That's my goal, anyways. Actually, that's a good idea. I'm going to make you the same size as me as well in mine.
okay.
Usually I just make the person a little square in the corner.
You're like a pretty big square in my corner, but our heads are the same size. Yeah, I feel like it's
Ooh.
would be able to see all the little facial expressions, you know.
All right, now I'll move my webcam over. Oh my goodness. There's some real tech stuff going on here, people.
I can't believe we're doing all this setup for a conversation that's only going to last 30 seconds.
True. Wait, you guys just wait. The screaming hasn't begun yet, but once we've got this tech sorted out, then we'll hate each other.
Yeah.
All right, you can't have more space than me here.
Whoa.
That would be unacceptable.
Yeah.
And sorted. All right, look at that.
Wait, I'm in your Discord call.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
I see what you're doing.
I don't know how to fix
Can you-
that.
Can you connect your Discord? From your Discord settings, can you choose your actual camera instead of your virtual camera?
Let's see. Can I do that? Is that...
If not, I'll just re.
Um,
It's not gonna work.
okay, fine. I'll make you small in mine so that it's
no,
less
it's fine.
irritating.
No,
Oh,
you-
do you have to reconfigure the whole thing now?
Yeah, but it's only gonna take a second. I'm just gonna crop your. Just have to recrop it. Okay.
All right, so I apologize. I'm going to sound a bit stuffed up. I've just gotten over the Wu flu and also very little sleep. But who is this? This is a person named Mr.Girl. And he is very controversial. I actually, so I'll just set the scene here. I actually haven't looked that much into you. I don't know about your Cuties controversy. I made an active decision not to look too much into you before speaking, to not have too much of a bias.
But also, let's be clear, that also makes it, not looking into me also makes it so you have plausible deniability.
I don't care about that. Like, you really think that...
You may not care about it, but it's a fact.
What does that mean? Like, why would I want plausible deniability?
Well, if somebody says, Lauren, why would you talk to the guy who said this, this, and this? You can say, well, I didn't know he said that. And you have it on record at the very start of the conversation that you don't know what I've said or not
Why
said.
would I care if someone says, how dare you speak to this person?
Because if you, well, let's say that
unless you
after
could
the
decide to go
stream-
like shoot up a school or something, then people
no, let's
seem
say
to
after
really
the stream
care about
somebody
that.
shows you that I am a advocate for child pornography, that I've been caught and arrested with it 5 times. I spent 10 years in jail. I love child pornography, and I just think it's the best thing on earth.
Well, then we're going to
Don't you
get
think
into that.
Well,
I'll probably ask you
I'm
some
saying that don't-
questions.
I'm saying if you had known that before we talked, do you think that you would be so friendly with me in our opening statements here?
I know you're
Probably not.
controversial, and I know people have said you're a pedophile and these kind of things, and
I understand that, but if
Yeah.
I were literally a child pornographer, if I were a maker of child pornography, don't you agree that you would at least approach this with some more trepidation?
Yeah, I'd probably speak to you, but yeah, I'd probably come in pretty hard.
Okay, and so that's why I'm saying if somebody says, why didn't you come in hard? You have it now laid out that you have nothing to come in hard about because you have not researched me.
I mean, if I were playing lots of mental games, that would make sense. Sure, if I were like setting up all these building blocks, but I'm not smart enough for that. I'm not. On an emotional, on a
No.
no. Let me
You're not
clarify that. On a
Okay.
social, emotional level, it's not that I'm not smart enough to do it. I just don't really think I'm that capable. It's not in my constitution, my personality, to play those kind of social games, which is why I tend to be very bad at it and tend to have the reputation I do now.
Okay, I think it's fair to. I agree that you're somewhat naive or maybe unwilling to play those games, but finding out if the person you're talking to is a literal child molester, I don't think that's a social game. I just want to point out that you can frame it as laziness, or you just didn't feel like researching me, or you didn't want to have a bias, or whatever.
No, so I watched
But
one interview with you and Destiny. but it didn't go over
It
your
does afford
history.
you plausible deniability, whether you want it to or not.
I see what you're getting at. I just don't know why.
Yeah,
So are
you
you
don't know
like
why I'm
I
getting
see
at it.
that so I found this interesting with your conversation with Destiny. You seem to care a lot about how people are or could be using you in a social aspect. Like you want to understand the psychology of why people talk to each other, why they avoid certain people online, why they ask certain questions the way they do or have the constitution they do in a conversation. And I think that's interesting because a lot of people don't take that approach in this realm. They all just kind of assume in some spheres we're all here for clout and we're just it's like Zerka Royale. We're all here for clout. We're all using each other. That's what this is going to be. And then some people make genuine friends on the internet, and some people get genuine, solid relationships with people. Why do you care so much about this kind of stuff? Like, is it why do you care so much about the interpersonal relationships between like streamers and people who speak to you?
I have a strong aversion to pretending I'm friends with somebody I'm not. And I have a strong aversion to noticing a dynamic in a social situation, especially one that disadvantages me, and not talking about it explicitly. So, and this has derailed a lot of my streams lately, where I feel like um, a power play is being made or a move is being made, knowingly or not, and then when I point it out, uh, it just like basically just derails the whole conversation. So, so like with Destiny, I feel like anytime I talk to Destiny, I do like to acknowledge like, hey, like you're huge. You launched my career, and made it so I can like semi make a living. I quit my job because I talked to you once, like 3 weeks ago, and I think that that creates a huge power differential, and I think it's worth mentioning. And not just a power differential for me, but it also creates like a situation where somebody that big and somebody, especially somebody whose fans are so likely to also become fans of mine, can help me way more than I can help him. So it just creates this like weird dynamic. I think every time we talk, that my only solution to it is to talk about it. And lately, after talking to a lot of people on Twitch, I've noticed people will do things, a lot of things, to protect themselves in these conversations. And so I want to point out that any declaration either of us make of like, hey, I don't know everything this person has said, is somewhat self-protective, even if we don't intend it to be. It has that effect.
Well, so like I tried to find your Cuties review, but I couldn't find it. Is it still online?
Yeah, it's on my website.
But it's not on your
YouTube took
YouTube.
it
So I
down.
went to your
No.
YouTube and I watched two of your songs, the I'm a
Yeah.
pedophile song and the You Can't Stop What's Happening in My Head song. And I saw a third one on Twitter, which was the I Kill Pedophiles song. And then I saw, am I allowed to say this on Twitch? Let me quickly ask my chat. Am I going to get banned for
Word
saying this
pedophile?
word? Yeah.
I
I,
know
s-
you can talk about
okay.
pedophiles on Twitch.
Okay, I
Trust me,
assume.
my whole career is talking about pedophiles on Twitch.
All right. All right, we're good,
Yeah,
chat. We're good to go. Full steam
yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
And then I watched a Destiny conversation with you, and I found you very interesting. I found your conversation style, the way your brain works, very interesting. But I could not purport to know about your history. So that's my
I see.
context for you. I did try to find it. I won't pretend I didn't, but I
Oh yeah.
couldn't find it, and I didn't find it.
Okay. I'll tweet that out today so that everybody
Yeah.
can see my Cuties review if anybody missed it.
So before we jump into
Uh,
things, should we explain why our first chat was canceled?
for the exact reason I just said, but the other way around.
Hmm.
Well, actually, that's not. It was it was canceled because you got pissed. It was canceled because you got pissed off. But the reason you got pissed off is because I did what I just said that you did.
Right. Right. Which I find
So we were gonna play
interesting.
video. Yes, we were gonna play video games together. Because I'm like, oh, cool, like a conservative woman, this will be good. And then I heard about your, uh, and I don't know all the facts, so we can talk about this, about your refugee ship incident.
Hmm.
And it suddenly felt like that, and then you being friendly with people who other people, including me, perceive to be white nationalists or white supremacists, made me think that I'm going to appear like I don't know what I'm doing, and like I haven't done my research well enough, and like I'm naive and trusting. Not trusting. Trusting's good. Like I'm stupid. That's what I mean. And um, I didn't want to appear that incompetent. And so it's not me wanting to not appear being friendly with somebody who is perceived as a white supremacist or who might be a white supremacist. It's that I don't want to be seen realizing I'm doing that in real time, like I have no fucking idea what I'm doing.
And so, how
That
do
was my main
you,
problem.
like,
So let me.
obviously, yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So trying to explain this to you, I think it came across to you as like you're dirty and I don't want to be smeared by you,
It
which
actually
is fair.
wasn't. That's not how it came across. I found it.
Oh, okay.
So when I got your initial message, of course, I had all of those things go through my head, where I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy. He's got all these accusations about him that he's a pedophile. He's, or he's defending child porn or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
should I even talk to him? Like that went through my head. Should I even talk to him? Do I want to have this conversation? And I was like, you know what? Like people spend a lot of time doing those calculations in their head. I'm reading a book right now. I'm going to be quoting him a lot just because I get obsessive with whatever book I'm reading at the moment and integrating it into whatever conversations I have in my life. G.K. Chesterton, and he wrote it's his criticism of a bunch of philosophers in his day and age, friends and people he dislikes, and he wrote, "You should never go to a man's enemies to try to understand who he is, nor should you go to the man himself." And I'm like, I don't feel like I can get a proper understanding of who this person is, nor can people get a proper understanding of who I am by what the worst accusations of us are on Twitter. So let's just give it a chance. Sure. You want to play COD? Let's play COD. I'll talk. I'll hear what you actually have to say, and then I can analyze that and, analyze other people's thoughts, my own mind in context with other readings and understandings I have. But I just don't, certainly with my own experience, don't have that belief that you can understand someone by their worst, the worst accusations against them or what all your enemies say. So then, to have that turned around and be like, "Ooh, Lauren, I'm gonna, be careful because of the worst assumptions I've seen about you online." I was like, "Oh, damn it!" Like, I figured you might find it endearing that both of us were in this position where people have these horrible interpretations of us that we both genuinely believe are deeply misunderstood. I at least assume on your end. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I think that some people hate me because of misconceptions they have about me. But I think that a lot of my detractors actually do understand me. They just are horrified by me, genuinely.
Interesting. So
And I
that's
don't
what I
think
want to find out. That's what I want to find out. I know you wanted to interview me, but I'm going to have far too many questions for it to go that way.
that's
If I'm
fine.
being honest.
We can go either way. Um, yeah, I agree that you can't go to the person's enemies or to themselves, but I think that that but you're neither. So you're in a good position to understand me, not being my enemy, nor my ally, nor me.
So
And I think I'm in a position to understand you.
who gets to go first in the Alcoholics Anonymous circle, the canceled Anonymous circle? Do you want to start with?
Nazis, Nazis, and pedophiles anonymous.
So what's this whole Cuties thing? What's the review there? What happened?
I made a review where I said that Cuties tries to make you attracted to 11-year-old girls and that it's pretty good at it.
And how
I
did
said
okay.
I said like, as far as music videos go, like they are kind of hot. And that's kind of weird, and that and I think it was unethical to be made with real children. But if you take the ethics of that aside, I think it makes an interesting point of forcing us to reconcile with ourselves, like, uh, how do we handle the blurry area between children and adults, and the times when we can see them as attractive or when they're dressed up or acting like adults. And as an art piece, I found it a interesting way to force us to confront those things. And then overall, like the ways that we sexualize children.
So do you think that Cuties should have been published or should not have been published?
When you say public, you mean by
Like,
Netflix
do you
or
think it
by
should have
like?
been made in the first place?
Um, no, not the way it was, but I don't think it should be illegal. So it's like there's a lot of things that you can do that I think are immoral, but I don't think that someone with a gun should stop you. So this falls in that kind of realm where I'm like, I think we need people out there making immoral art. As contradictory as it sounds, like I stand, like I don't think you should do it, but I don't think it rises to the level of a crime either.
Why do you think it's immoral?
Um, because you're telling kids to twerk, or you're letting them twerk, whatever, paying them to twerk, but
Now,
whether they like it or not,
I'll
you're
clear.
filming, you're sticking a big camera in a kid's butt, and that's like,
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
seems wrong to me.
So, to
Yeah.
clarify to my chat who don't know, the movie Cuties was a French movie about a bunch of 11-year-olds who make a dance team and they do very, very sexual dances and have a lot of sexual experiences in the movie. So, a lot of people, Netflix bought it, massive controversy. People were like, this is like borderlining on child porn.
Yeah.
Mr. Girl's whole
And I,
controversy is he did a review of the movie where he didn't fully reject it. I've done a review of Cuties myself for Human Events where I obviously completely rejected the film and don't think it should have been made. I want to dig further on that though. So,
do you
so I
think it should be a
asked,
crime?
well, I'm more so getting into the moral aspect of it. So you said you don't think it's moral because it's sticking cameras at children's private parts. So
The creation of it, I think, is the
yeah,
problem. That yeah, that you're um like I don't think it's immoral to film a kid's gymnastics competition. And even though they could end up being kind of sexualized in the same way, or if somebody were interested in watching that for sexual reasons, they might receive gratification from it. So it's not that's not the part so much that I'm worried about. It's that it sends a very different message to a child to say like you're going to compete in this sport and part of the sport is that you're wearing a leotard versus I'm going to put you in a leotard and film you because it is sexual and we're making a movie about sexuality and objectifying children, so I'm going to objectify you. And like even if the outcome could be similar, it's the creation of the second one I think is inherently semi child abuse.
and did you just didn't clarify your thoughts on that well enough in your Cuties review, you think? Or what was like the crux that people held on to and were doing all the quote tweets about?
I said that pretty clearly in the review. Most people have not actually seen my review. They've seen clips of me saying that the girls were hot out of context.
So you objectively found them hot, is what you're saying.
Well, I think it's subjective, but yeah.
Like in fair. In your mind, you thought
In
that.
my mind, yeah, I was like, wow, they actually are kind of hot. So, but like the point of bringing that up in the review was like, this is weird. It's weird. It's
So
a weird thing to have to confront yourself about, to be like, oh, like you dress these kids up to be hot and then like they kind of are.
right, so you're saying it's a weird thing and a wrong thing. I'm trying to understand you here properly that there would be a deliberate
Yeah, I don't I,
intention to try to make people's mind make that connection between a child and sexuality,
no,
which
no, no, no. I think that's fine. I think I'm fine with that part of it. I'm fine with challenging people to like I think there's ways you can make the world a better place or a more interesting place by forcing people to acknowledge to themselves like that you know what the line of where you find someone attractive does not is not 18. It's not magically it stops there. It for some people it goes somewhat lower, for some people much lower. It's dependent on situations and relationships or whatever. And I think that if I think we can protect children better if we know that about ourselves and each other. So I'm fine with challenging people to
Okay, so
face that.
if we so we
What
acknowledge obviously pedophilia exists. So there are people that are attracted to children. We acknowledge that exists within the human psyche in some places.
well, it's a spectrum.
It's a spectrum, right? We acknowledge that exists
Yeah.
within the human psyche. So should not the and this is obviously what the natural reaction was for most people. The natural reaction was, we deeply reject this movie because we don't want to
No,
spark
no. I think
that
that's
or that thing in the
no. I
human
think that's
psyche or
fake.
entertain that.
I don't. I think some of that is fake. Wait, can I just explain the answer to your previous question
Hmm.
about what people's problem was with my review?
Yep, go
Most
ahead.
people, when they disclose things about themselves on social media, are doing so for the purpose of saying dot 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 and I am a good and normal person or and this is how things should be. And so I'm very careful to differentiate between when I'm making a prescriptive statement about how I think the world should be, but I think the assumption is when someone's reviewing a movie that they're not going to make themselves look like a sick monster.
Hmm.
And so I think there's an assumption that if I say, "Oh yeah, the movie made me find the girls in the movie hot," that I therefore think that's a good thing, or that I'm completely comfortable with that, or that I want to normalize it, or that I whatever. There's a lot of assumptions that go into that. So I think part of the problem is that people who are not familiar with me or my content are assuming that like if who's a good clean YouTuber like Mr. Beast. If Mr. Beast came out and said like the girls and cuties were hot, obviously the implication there would be, and that's okay, and that's a good thing, and like why? I'm very careful to explain on my channel like my morality is a separate topic, and I addressed it separately in the review from my experience, and I do not present my thoughts and this I think this is the appeal of my channel to people. I'm not presenting my thoughts in a way where I'm only going to present the ones that I think are moral. In fact, I'm going to go out of my way to present the thoughts that I have that I think are immoral more because they're the more unspoken and more interesting thoughts to talk about.
So is it just okay? So I've got sorry, I've got so many questions. First of all, I want for my chat for people that are listening. They're all like, "What the hell is going on?" So just clarify, like black and white. Uh, you think age of
Oh,
consent should
oh,
exist?
you
Like
want
you're
like you
against
want so
pedophilia
that
kind of
okay, this
stuff?
is
Like
exactly
just
this is perfect. We can watch it happen in real time. So people desperately want reassurance when you go into murky waters, right? And same
yeah,
thing
you have
with
to
you.
clarify everything going in. But like I'm
Right.
doing this
And
because
same
I'm
and,
seeing mass
and
confusion in my chat. So I feel like anything you say from this point on will just be
well, it's the
misunderstood
same
if there
thing.
isn't
I
some
mean,
sort of clarification.
right. So it'd be like if my chat was like, wait a second, ask her if she believes that in equal rights for people of different races. Ask her if she's a race realist. Ask her if she believes in segregation or if she's pro-slavery. Make her say XYZ. Make some statement or pledge that she's not a
Well,
racist.
like, yeah, I can. So like I can make statements like,
Well, I don't, whoa,
I'm
whoa,
against
whoa.
I'm
No,
against slavery, but we can talk
I
about
don't want
the.
you.
y-
I don't want you to make
No,
any
I
statements.
know
I'm
I know what
asking
you
you
mean
to
though.
react.
Like I get what you're saying because you can make a
So is that what we're doing?
definitive. You can make a
You're asking me
definitive
to do that.
statement, but
I assume you
but
don't like it when
still,
people ask you to do this.
um, no, you're right. I don't like that,
You don't
but
like it. So maybe you should tell your chat to fuck off.
I think that they have some relevant concerns. But all right, what I will tell you, chat, is let's dig
But you
deeper.
don't.
Let's dig deeper.
No, no, no,
I
no, no. Don't fuck with me. You are not sitting there thinking that I want to lower the age of consent. I don't believe you think that. They think that, and they're addressing you with the concern, and you are passing it on to me.
No, I don't think that, but I'm not sure that you're communicating that well enough. And I don't think I communicate my thoughts well enough sometimes either, which is why there has been a large
Oh,
amount of
how
misunderstanding.
convenient.
How
Okay.
convenient.
I think I should defend you from my chat, and you can defend me from your chat. How's that? You can explain it to your chat. Don't ask me. You tell them. You understand.
Well, I'm trying to fully understand your beliefs as well right
No,
now.
I think you understand just fine. I appoint you as my representative to defend me from your own chat. You now have power of attorney. You can speak for me. Go ahead.
We've only spoken for 30 minutes. I
You're that
genuinely do
intuitive.
not feel that I
You
can
are that
describe your
intuitive.
views well enough.
You are that intuitive, I believe, that I'm granting you power of attorney anyway.
You're being very aggressive and you're assuming that I understand you well enough when I don't. I've spoken to you for 30 minutes. I don't understand you or your mind
Well,
well
would you rather
enough.
I assume that you don't understand me when you do?
I
I'm being
understand.
I'm being aggressively charitable. And this may not be charitability that you want right now, but I'm giving it to you all the same.
You just told me to fuck
So if you're
off. Where's the aggressive charitability?
well, I meant well, that
I
was a
think you're
different
getting
topic.
very defensive. And I think you're
No,
frustrated that
I'm getting anti-defensive. I'm not going to
you're
defend myself.
frustrated that you recognize that I understand what you're getting at to a degree, and I do, but I don't feel that I genuinely have enough understanding to explain it
I
back to my
feel
chat simply. You know when
I know.
you read
I
a
feel that you
book
do.
and you're like,
Yeah.
I get that book and I see what they're getting at, but I couldn't
Yeah.
explain this to someone else well
Well,
enough.
I actually heard a quote from a book that was it's really stuck with me. If you want to understand a man, don't go to his enemies, nor to the man himself.
Right, but I don't understand you well enough yet. I'm trying to.
Well,
I have to
your
ask a
chat can't
lot more
ask me. I
questions.
am me. I can't explain myself.
Right? And then I'm
You're a
going to
neutral party.
analyze it as a neutral party, but I don't feel that I am like in that book. Okay, so that's great. Let's bring it back to Chesterton's book. In that book, Chesterton,
Yeah.
where it's called Heretics, and he's reviewing various philosophers. He's known these
Yeah.
people, he's been friends with them their whole life, he's read all of their books. He can describe their views to a T before he gets into his critiques of them. He steelmans their positions, but he can only do this because he's gotten to know them at a deep level, like he's studied them. So when you look at that quote, he's not talking about get someone at face value that's a random third party. That's not what that quote means. That quote means that nor the
I
man
don't think you're a
himself
random
nor
third
the
party.
enemy is going to be able to interpret the
I think
person
you
well
are.
enough, but it doesn't mean the random idiot on the street or the random person who's just meeting someone or just beginning a
Don't
work
call
is
yourself
going
an
to
idiot, Lauren. I
I
think it's
wasn't
pretty
calling
obvious that
myself an
you're.
idiot. I think you missed the point
Well,
there.
just
I
think it.
said that doesn't mean a random person, whether they be an idiot, a person having a random conversation, or a random, that's not what that quote was referring to. And I do think you're having a bit
I
of condescension. I wonder if you project a bit about this constant analyzing, and I'm just saying I wonder, this constant analyzing about what other people are doing with mental games because you're
yes,
doing it.
it could be. Do are you saying that you don't understand what my mental game position is right now in this interaction? I feel like you do understand it. So that feels also not true.
I mean, I
Do you not
appreciate
understand why
that you.
you understand why I don't want to answer the question?
I so
And
okay. So I'll
you know
explain.
exactly
Okay,
how
I'll
I feel. I
explain
know
to
you
my
know how I
audience.
feel.
I'll explain to my audience
You
why,
can explain whatever you
perhaps.
want. I'm saying I don't want to answer their questions. I give you full authority to answer for me if you want to or not.
So I'm not. So when I think about when people ask me a question like, "Do you think that?" I'm trying to think of a good example.
Are you
Do you
now, or have you ever been
think
a member of the Nazi Party?
the great replacement is real or something? Or do you think that immigration is bad or good? Like that is not that those are not questions that I can possibly give yes or no answers to because there is so much depth and nuance to those questions. There are instances in which immigration are good and bad. There are instances in which I could say aspects of what people would call the great replacement are true, whereas other aspects are misportrayed. Did you do X? Did you do Y? Well, there's complexity to that. I understand. But when it comes, I think there are some definitive questions and there have to be some definitive answers in this world. Truth does exist. I'm not saying that either of us have it, but there are definitives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think that's the
If you
analogous
ask
situation.
me, okay, so there we go. Like I said, I'm not sure I understand fully. And I need you to believe me when I say I'm not sure I understand fully what you're getting at.
I don't believe you.
Well, then how can we continue to have this conversation if you don't believe anything I'm saying when I ask genuine questions?
I believe everything else you're saying. Just not
Which
this one.
which aspect?
I
Which
think, okay,
aspect is it that you don't believe
because
me
I already
on?
asked you. Okay, do you like being asked if you're a Nazi?
No, but I can answer it easily. I'm not.
Yes, but that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if you like it.
No, because I think it comes with an inherent assumption that I am. But if someone's chat if your chat were like, is Lauren a Nazi, is Lauren a Nazi, and you said, my chat just want to know, yes, no, are you a Nazi? I'd say no. And maybe, there's actually an interesting analysis in that, like you said, the man themselves can't define them. There does have to be a degree of outside analysis, but I think that's where the rest of the conversation comes in. You can give people definitive phrases and then they can listen to you for the rest of the conversation to see if your actions match up with that. But it's not like there's zero value to someone's self-description. It's certainly not the final.
That's not my point.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Where if you don't like being asked certain questions, you're going to have a very hard time on the internet. You're going to have a very hard time doing live streaming.
We're both having a pretty fucking hard time on the internet. I think there's no question about that.
I don't know if you consider it.
I'm already having a hard time on the internet.
Well, this is just what it is, It's not like
it sucks.
It's
but
just,
like,
yeah.
can I explain? I feel like you asked me a question, but I feel like you are not understanding my answer.
Okay. The floor is yours. I'm listening.
Do you like it when people ask if you're a Nazi?
No.
Okay, you said you don't like it because it implies that you are.
It implies that there's a question.
Don't you also not like it just because it's annoying?
Correct, yeah.
I don't like virtue signaling. I find it detestable. I don't like being asked to do it. I don't like it when someone's like, whoa, I'm getting uncomfortable. Can you make some broad statements about what kind of person you are so I can calm down and listen to what you're saying? I'm like, well, no. Then don't listen. That's fine.
Okay, I kind of see what you're getting at.
Right now, we're talking about cuties. Well, do I have to tell you what I think the age of consent should be to be able to have a conversation about cuties? And based on this conversation, you're telling me you don't know what my position on the age of consent is, or I have a guess? I just don't believe that. I don't believe you.
I have a guess that you would generally be against pedophilia. I have a guess that you believe the age of consent is probably pretty fair where it is right now. That would be my assumption. But you're exploring these ideas with a mind that I think people would argue is too open. And I think
people, including you?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to you long enough.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if your chat has questions about where I stand, and they want me to virtue signal to calm them down, I don't care if your chat's calm.
I don't care if they're calm either, but I'm offering that I figured, a lot of people.
I'm not going to answer their questions. I'll answer your questions.
Okay, that's fine.
Because I don't like being asked to virtue signal, and I reject the construct of like, whoa, I can't proceed listening to this talk about cuties if this guy, like if he thinks the age of consent should be 11, then I'm out. Like,
I can see why you would enjoy speaking to Destiny, because he definitely doesn't do that.
No,
When I think about that, like I've never had
you don't
him.
do it either.
Sorry, do what?
You don't do it either. And I assume you'd hate it when it's being done to you.
Yeah. So okay,
Let's not do it.
I think I can explain it to my chat. I know you don't like me addressing my chat. In fact, I will close it
No, no,
after I
you can
explain
address.
this.
No, no, no. If you want to keep an eye on chat, and I'm going to do the same, then that's fine. And
Okay.
you can address it to them as you want. I'd like to hear how what you're saying to them, though.
Okay. So when I speak to Destiny chat, you guys will notice he never asks me to clarify, you know, are you a Nazi? Are you a racist? Are you a white supremacist? Are you all these things your Wikipedia page say? We have the conversation and he leaves it up to people to decide what I've said and what my views are based on the actual contents of our conversation rather than these kind of labels that must always be addressed and always be questioned beforehand to ensure that the conversation is acceptable to have or not. And that's nothing. Even when I came back and every single Twitch creator, every single YouTube creator that interviewed me wanted to ensure we did an inquisition about my past, he didn't do that. And I don't think he did that to you either. He just wanted to actually prod and pry your mind to see what we could figure out through, yeah, dissecting your beliefs. Because you can't find out what someone is through a yes or no question. I'm not sure you can. Sorry, I'm not sure if that makes sense. I'm grappling with the idea right now. But I also got offended to an extent when you suggested that you wanted to just interview me instead of just talk because you want
Yeah,
because I thought it was
it's
going to just
to
be an
protect you.
inquisition of are you this, are you that, are you this, are you that.
Yeah, yeah, and I I should have presented that differently, because that's usually what happens.
Look at us dealing with our internet trauma.
Yeah, I think we're both pretty pissed off and hurt.
Do you see the value in direct questions though if they're thought out well? Maybe not yes or
Yeah,
no
but
questions,
my
but
no, no, no. My problem with it is not that it was a direct yes or no question. It's that it wasn't your question, and it had nothing to do with what we were talking about.
okay.
And I'd already given you the information to answer it in the previous 30 seconds. So my problem was that you were passing the buck from your upset chat and asking me to calm them down. I don't like calming people down. I don't like placating people. It pisses me off.
Well, you're gonna have a fun time on the internet, that's for sure. So that's the one thing I thought was very interesting when you were talking to Destiny. The one conversation I did listen to, where oh, what was the line? You were saying that you were gonna drag him off the cliff with you in trying to change the way that the internet was. Can you remember what the line was exactly?
I don't, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. I want to change this about the internet, at
The
least in a little bubble around myself. If that's all I can do, then that's fine. But I refuse to play this game. I really don't like it.
it used to be different. It used to be a bit more like what you're talking about, where people would just go in and engage in the conversation, and there wasn't the attitude of here's all of these, who are you? You have to answer. You have to, you know, you have to answer these direct questions. You have to check this box, that box before it's acceptable for you to come on this show or be on this platform. Even just 6, 7 years ago, were you online then,
Yeah.
like doing
No.
content?
No.
And you know, there's also this assumption. We addressed this at the very beginning. This assumption that if you speak to someone and you speak to them the way we're speaking to each other, where there's not screaming going on, that you agree, which is very difficult to overcome.
Right.
Because I want to be
So
able to speak
we-
to everyone like this, even if I
right,
really
right. And
dislike them.
we have to be screaming at each other to show that we are not each other, and then it's impossible to talk to anybody who's different from you, which ultimately is very boring. Because then either people are screaming at each other, which is ultimately boring, or people are chatting about nothing because they already agree on everything.
Right. Right. All right, well, I'll give you the floor since I've been. I did exactly
Well,
what you asked me not to do to me. Little inquisition
the
against you.
Inquisition.
Yeah. So I'll give you the floor. Where
You
do you want to
didn't.
go with
Yeah.
this?
You were complicit in a chat inquisition against me. Um. The thing that I heard that upsets me the most is from what I understand, that you blocked a rescue ship from leaving harbor.
Now, what do you think actually happened there? If you like, what when you think
I
of
don't
how
know.
humans behave and like how the human psyche
Hey,
works, what do you think actually happened there?
I have no fucking idea. I'm telling you that what I heard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't. I honestly don't have much of an opinion on what actually happened because I don't know. I know that I don't. What scares me is the image of you in a raft in front of a ship that's supposed to go rescue drowning migrants, preventing them from doing so.
So there are various approaches
Not,
to. Do you want me to explain what
that's-
happened?
not yet.
Okay, go ahead.
That's the image that is painted. Um, whether it's true or not, uh, it's a painful image to have painted of you. So, I'm not looking to. I'm not. I don't want it to be an inquisition. I genuinely just wanted to tell you that the image freaks me out, but I do want to understand it,
Hmm.
and I don't want you to feel that you have to defend yourself. And if you don't want to talk about it, then you don't have to.
Like you said earlier, it does get some of these conversations get boring because you go over them so many times, right? But on another hand, I feel like the more I look back on circumstances and analyze them better, the better I am at explaining to other people my thought process. So there was no stopping of any refugee ships or rescue ships. It's one of those complex gray zones where, if you want to do your worst portrayal of an incident, you can, to some accuracy, say Lauren attempted to block a rescue ship. To some accuracy, you could say that. But
What percent accuracy do you feel that is the case?
you can say a lot of things that are true that, when given context, are almost the complete opposite situation, is what I'll say to that. Does that
Okay.
does that make sense? So a
No.
statement
Well,
can be
it makes
100%
sense.
true, but your opinion of it can change 100% when given more context to that statement. Like,
Well,
Mr.
no, I mean,
Mr. Girl
I'm
killed
saying for
someone,
you.
for example.
I'm saying no. I don't want. We don't. You don't have to look. We can have a much shorter conversation about this. You don't have to. You don't have to do this.
No, but do you get what I'm saying when I say that? Like, I
I
could.
do, but you don't have to. I get what you're doing, but you don't have to. I
Okay.
want to know what you think happened.
Okay, so it's
I'm not
gonna.
going to compare what somebody else said happened against what you think, and then try to get you to reconcile or argue with you. I want to know: do you feel that you blocked a ship that was supposed to go potentially save drowning people? Does
No,
that resonate with you?
no, not even a little bit. That's completely.
What do you Okay, so I just want to know
Yeah.
what you think. I'm not gonna try to trip you up. I'm not gonna attack
Hmm.
you. I'm not gonna say, well, what about this? I don't want to do that. I just want to know what you think.
No, that's not what I think at all. It's it's very frustrating watching people make that claim about me, because I feel it is always from a politically charged stance, because this is something, the blocking of illegal migration, uh, that happens every single day in every single country by every elected official. So Joe Biden right now would not allow Haitian boats full of Haitian illegal migrants to land in Miami, Florida, right? They capture them and take them back and land them in Haiti. That's the policy. And, you know, they also wouldn't allow for random people to take ships out and pick them up and bring them to Miami. So, but yet Joe Biden, who would hold that policy, would never be compared to me, right? So this is the policy that I support. Yeah.
Will you stop?
What am I doing wrong in your mind?
Well, imagine if you asked me what I said about cuties, and I said, okay, Trump. Let's take a look at some of the things Trump has said about young girls, okay? And let's not forget, the guy owns a beauty pageant, all right? You don't have to do this.
Okay.
Your own chat likes you, and my chat likes you too. And I'm not trying to fuck with you. I just want to know what you think happened.
Oh, so what? Okay, just straight what happened. So I went out from my perspective. Went out. There was a ship called the Aquarius. It was going into Libyan waters and picking people up and bringing them to Italy. There was an overflow of illegal migration in Italy, which I believe is a terrible thing, because it overwhelms refugee and asylum systems. It simply is not sustainable. It's terrible for everyone involved, migrants as well. So I wanted to oppose this ship, as many even within European governments opposed the ship, because it was contributing to what people would call a pull factor of bringing more illegal migrants over and out on a dangerous mission into the sea. And so went out and protested the ship. Didn't block it, nothing. It had no migrants on it, and it just went on its merry way and went back to doing what it was doing. It was never blocked. I was eventually shut down by the government for under investigation for various illegal activities. We don't know if it will be charged or not, but it's been shut down. Yeah, I think that, yeah.
Clarifying questions?
Yep.
Okay, so the claim is... you went out on a raft to protest it with flares.
Forgive me. I need to shut down my notifications here.
Okay.
No. So what happened was there was a video that was going to be shot of just saying, basically, it was going to be a press picture. Let's get a picture, kind of the way that Greenpeace does their protests, where you get the boat in front of the big tanker. Do a little photo shoot to show there are people who oppose the mass bringing of illegal migrants into Europe. And when we were waiting there, and this is a very interesting misconception I see about it as well. When we were waiting there, the ship left late. So it was supposed to leave at like 4 p.m. or something during the day. And we were waiting in a little dinghy boat, not a dinghy boat, but like an electric one that we had rented. And the ship kept delaying and delaying and delaying and delaying until it got dark out. And we were like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this photo shoot? I found a flare, like the regular boat flare that you take for when you've got an emergency or something, in the ship, hidden in like the little container part under the wheel. And I was like, oh, this will work perfect. It'll light us up, because it was a handheld flare, so it doesn't fire. It just lights the direct area around you. And that will make it so that our ship is visible for the picture. And so I held that flare up for the picture, took the picture, it got uploaded, and a journalist at the Hill said that I was firing flares at a refugee boat. There were no refugees on it. It was completely empty. It was not a firing flare at all. And the only person at risk of dying was myself and everyone on the little dinghy boat, because the ship just kept moving forward despite us going by it. So, like...
Okay. Couple of questions.
Yeah.
You did not want to block it from leaving?
No, I think that would have been good. I think that would have...
It would have been good to block it?
Yep.
Okay. So you did not block it, but you did intend to, or you...
There was the intention there.
Okay, so you did intend to block it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the claim that the ship was on its way to go rescue possibly drowning migrants, is that true?
I believe that... it was going to rescue possibly drowning migrants, but people don't understand a lot of the maritime policy in that area. So maritime policy is, if you see people in distress, no matter who you are as a ship, you have to go and help them and bring them to the closest port of entry generally. Typically, that's what works, certainly in America. If you see boats that are coming from Haiti, even if they're caught like right on Miami's shore, they have to be brought back to Haiti. Otherwise, you're creating a pull factor for more people to come out in boats. Like, hey, we're going to get picked up and brought along. So typically, there are two supports for this kind of policy. You can just try to stop the pull factor altogether. Nope, if you come out here, you're getting brought straight back to the country you came from or going straight into detention. This is the Australian policy, and it stopped drownings by 100%. They had like 0 drownings the years after they put this policy in place. And then there are people who say they're going to come out anyways, and you have to save them. You have to bring out boats.
Lauren.
Yep. I know you're going to say stop it, but this is important to explain because there are two approaches. And my approach, I believe, is not to have a pull factor at all and not to have these ships going out into Libyan waters and picking people up.
I understand that. You want to continue, or can I?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay. So you wanted to block the boat. You're intended to block the boat, and the boat was going to go rescue people who were likely or potentially drowning.
Didn't believe that at the time either, and I'm not sure I still do to this day. There's still an ongoing investigation because the claim was from Italian prosecutors at the time that they were going into Libyan waters where the boats were just taking off, picking them up when they weren't in distress, and then bringing them to Europe.
If you had known it at the time, would you still have tried to block the ship leaving harbor?
If I had known what? That they were going to go and save a drowning group of people that moment? Of course not.
Yeah.
No. But I didn't believe that, and I'm not sure I do to this day.
If you found out with incontrovertible proof that that ship did go and rescue a group of drowning people, would you regret trying to block it?
See, that's a difficult question. Yes, if it's a really difficult question because it still comes into that push-pull factor, right? Is that part making sense? That's what I was trying to explain, the push-pull factor, because you could.
You're saying it could create more migration and more drownings in the long run.
So like
if you allow, so you're saying that perhaps letting some people drown in the short term will save more people and save the overloaded immigration system in the long run.
As horrific as that sounds, yes, which is why I don't think that particular boat should be supported. That's not to say I don't support rescue missions. I do. But there were really good missions that happened before, like Nostra, which what they did is they went out and it was government funded missions. They went out, they rescued people drowning at sea, but they also arrested human traffickers at the same time, which created a rescue factor with also, sorry?
I think you need to have an answer for this, even if the answer is that you don't know.
But you're doing the same thing to me that you were talking about earlier. There isn't a simple answer to this.
No, and not an answer about the truth, an answer about how you feel or what you believe.
I guess I don't know is a good answer. It's a better one than I have right now. But to me, it's not necessarily I don't know or I don't have an answer. It's I believe there are much better approaches, and that approach was genuinely causing more death. I genuinely believe with all my heart that sending out ships and promoting open borders policy led to way more death than a policy that said you will not be allowed in, you will be brought back to your port that you departed from. I believe that would have saved thousands of lives, tens of thousands.
But what people are going to corner you on is, do you believe that so strongly that you're willing to cause the death of, say, 50 people?
But I didn't. I see. That's asking an impossible hypothetical, because I believe that they were going into Libyan waters and picking up people that were not in distress at all and bringing them over.
It's not an impossible hypothetical. It's just a hypothetical.
No, on a human level, I of course would not want. I would not want to stop anyone from saving anyone who was drowning. Of course.
Even if it's
Of
going to
course.
save, even if you believe it's going to save thousands in the long run.
Well, you were in, see that's the thing. I was giving you the answer for the longer context before, and then you asked about that individual circumstance. In that
I'm
individual
asking. The
circumstance,
only reason you're, I'm not saying nobody thinks that you're drowning people for fun. Like obviously your point in doing it, in attempting to block the ship, is not to hurt people. It's to protest what you perceive as a broken system. And that could have the effect of hurting people in the short term. You're saying that when you did it, you did not think that there was any chance of hurting people in the short term, or you didn't know, or you didn't think about it.
I didn't think there would be any chance because it was our understanding at that time that the ship was directly going into Libyan waters because there had been tracking systems on the ship. You could watch where it was going. It wasn't going into the middle of the, ocean. It was going right into Libyan waters, so where they would have just taken off, and typically do not find, that distress. Now, that's not to say there wouldn't be any, but from my understanding, they were going into Libyan waters and picking up people not in distress, just people in boats that were wanting to come over and creating more of a pull factor.
Right. And
But
so
I reckon. Oh, sorry.
your perspective at the time is that you're basically stopping a ferry.
Yes, precisely,
Okay.
precisely.
Right. And so you're in a difficult position in talking about this, which I want to acknowledge, which is that you're being asked to answer to hypotheticals that, I mean, you didn't stop the ship, so we don't know what would have happened if you had. So we don't. You're being asked to answer for things that didn't happen, but could have happened, and that you, at the time, it sounds like did not consider, and whether you should have considered it or not is another question. And then how you feel about it in retrospect, I think after being attacked relentlessly for it, and the story being twisted and oversimplified, particularly by people who don't like you, I assume also makes it like more complicated to talk about.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good understanding. I always think of like how we could play a lot of these eternal hypotheticals with a lot of activism and a lot of just politics in general, like a lot of people that probably would say this about me have partaken in BLM protests where they've blocked roads and felt that that was, the best way to go about raising awareness. The government won't listen to this greater issue that we have unless we cause some sort of scene. And what if it stopped an ambulance, and someone died in that ambulance while you were doing that? Well, that didn't happen. And but this could be applied to so many different circumstances, right? But then also there's a lot of instances in life where it's like, what if I do nothing? What if I do nothing? Then are you not at fault for a lot of things that happen in the world as well? We could play this fault game of hypotheticals with everyone to many different degrees and extents.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? What I'm trying to.
Yes, I understand. I understand what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but it's. How old were you?
21.
Would you do it again?
21. No.
Why?
Because I think there are better approaches. It did nothing but cause chaos and havoc in my life and a lot of others. It was kind of it didn't do anything, ultimately. Actually, I won't say it didn't do anything, but I think those things can be done a lot smarter because eventually there was a German government and a few EU officials and a few ministers that actually launched investigation into that ship, the Aquarius, and specifically named me as bringing attention to it. So it did do that to an extent. In fact, I did a video called Vindicated on YouTube about that. But I don't think I had to do it in a way that made people misunderstand the intention to such a great degree and still raise awareness. You know, a video investigating the activities of the Aquarius and bringing these forms to government could have had the same effect, in my opinion, as that incident without all of the fallout of people literally thinking I was shooting puppies with a flare gun or something in the Mediterranean or drowning babies.
Do you think that it's irresponsible to block a rescue ship without fully considering the possible death that could be caused by doing that?
Why do you think I wouldn't consider that?
Because I asked you if you thought they were going to save drowning people, and you said you didn't think about it.
I said that my thoughts were they were going into Libyan waters as a ferry service to pick people up, so of course I had thought about that.
Okay. Okay, so maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah.
You tried to block the ship knowing that it was possibly going to go rescue drowning people.
Didn't block the ship, first of all, and secondly,
yes, but you attempted to.
I went in with the knowledge. Yep.
Don't stop dodging this.
I'm not dodging it.
Like
when you answer, because you just said when you blocked the ship, so of course I'm going to correct you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You attempted sorry. That's my fault. When you attempted to block the ship, knowing that it was going to possibly go rescue drowning people. Is that true?
I'm trying to, sure, yeah, I guess I can accept that, but that's not what the intention of the blockage.
Obviously, yes. I'm not saying
that's not what the intention of the blocking was, nor.
I understand.
But okay, so here's what there's a very important clarification here. So after that happened, there was a ship that went out called the Sea Star.
You're going to lose everybody listening.
No,
you're losing them.
Listen.
They don't care.
No. This is important. This is important.
It's not. It's not important.
You don't know what I'm going to say. What am I going to say?
It doesn't matter what you say right now. I'm telling you. I want to give you advice about.
I don't want your advice. I want to say what I'm going to say.
Okay, well then go ahead.
I'll have your advice after I say what I'm going to say. So the ship that went out called the Sea Star that had the explicit mission of investigating the behavior of NGOs that were potentially colluding with human traffickers. All of the people that would accuse me of being this horrible, awful human being that wanted to kill migrants by stopping that ship opposed this ship and protested to have it stopped. Now, that ship also had the explicit mission of picking up drowning people at sea. Should they not be asking all the same moral questions that we're speaking about right now? Did they not think about what protesting or signing petitions to block that ship would do? It could have gone out and saved 50 people drowning. We could have this conversation about every ship in the damn sea because it's maritime law that they have to pick people up that are drowning. So when you're putting me in these awkward moral conundrums that make it sound as though I'm the only one with this question when you could ask literally anyone this question.
Motherfucker, I just said 11-year-olds were hot. Don't talk to me about this shit. I have no sympathy for your inability to answer this question.
It's not an inability to answer this question.
I have sympathy for it.
Okay, all right. You know what? You know what's a question that I have is I did what I did because I genuinely felt it was going to change and make the world a better place. I genuinely felt that asylum seekers were having their lives effed up because there were a bunch of people that were paying tons of money to come over and take their spot. The systems were overloaded. There was a ferry service, and more people were drowning because of this. Why the fuck did you say 11-year-olds were hot and do a video about cuties? What is so important to you in that aspect?
Truth.
Why is that important to you? Why? Like, what cause?
Well,
What purpose?
I'll answer
At
that in
least
a
the thing
second.
that I'm canceled for seemed. I genuinely, have this belief that there is a moral imperative to stop
Nazis
mass
were set up.
migration for the sake of both
I told
regular
you,
migrants and
Nazis were
asylums
set up.
and indigenous people in the country alike. What is the big moral feat you were trying to make by making a review of Cuties that ruined your fucking life? Like, I don't understand.
I thought you were better than this, Lauren. I really did.
No, you
Can I
play.
give you
That's
advice?
such a mental game. Stop playing these little mental games. This is why you pick into people's minds so much about what are you doing, because you're playing these mental games of
I'm
like,
disappointed in you, Lauren.
yeah, exactly. You're like, I don't care
Can I
if
give
you
you
like
some
me. I don't care.
That's not true. That's a lie. Don't lie.
I don't
Can I ask you
know.
something?
I don't
Or can I
care
give
if you
some
like
advice?
me.
You do care if I like you. Shut up. Can I give you some advice?
Let's hear it.
Okay. I think this would go much better if you just bit the bullets. Just be a bullet-eating vacuum cleaner.
We spent the first half of this interview
Oh,
with me doing
jeez.
the exact same thing to
Right.
you that you are doing to me now. And I'm
Can
the
I
only one that's
give you some advice?
actually engaging with your direct questions that are actually like,
You didn't. Whoa! You didn't ask me any direct questions. What do you want me to answer? Do you want to go? Do you want to go back?
like,
and
do
ask
you
me
think
more
the
about
age of consent? Like, I asked you, are you a
You already know the
pedophile?
answer
Yes,
to
no.
that.
Do you think? Well, you
didn't
should
ask me
already
that.
know the answer to all these questions you're asking me as well, based on what we've already spoken about. Like, it's really frustrating.
No,
You're
I
like, bite
literally
these
don't
bullets,
know.
Lauren.
I
Bite these
literally
bullets.
don't know the answer to these questions.
Why didn't you believe me when
What
I
is-
said that to you? Why did you refuse to believe me when I
Because
said
you
that
were
to you?
lying.
I
You were
wasn't lying,
then
and you clearly can't
you
read
said
me.
you said that you said that you didn't know what I think the age of consent should be, and then you immediately turned around to your chat 2 minutes later and told them accurately what I think the age of consent
I
should be.
sat there
So,
and I made my best assumption.
okay.
So
Well, it
maybe
was a great-
should I make you sit here and make your best assumption about me, or just let you ask me questions and tell me to bite the bullet when I give you answers you don't like?
Can I finish my advice?
Why is this all advice for me? I
It
don't.
doesn't
This
have to be.
isn't.
Say no. If you don't want my advice, I won't give it to you. Getting advice is annoying, especially from creators who are smaller than you and flailing.
No, I don't.
Trust
I
me,
don't
I understand.
mind
I'm
getting
smaller than you,
advice,
and
but
I'm
mind
flailing.
that you have been
You
so
don't want to be me. You don't
condescending this whole call. And like you're psychoanalyzing me while condescending at times. And and getting it
I don't know
wrong.
how to turn that off. You're getting what?
You're getting like the assumptions you're making about me where you're like, you're lying there, you're doing this. It's like you're doing this armchair psychology
Yeah,
around
people
me,
really don't
and
like
it's wrong, and it's sending me out of whack, and I'm having to sit here and think about it and be like, how do I answer that when he doesn't believe what I'm
sound
saying?
like
How
know
do
what
I?
I'm talking about though. That's what's confusing. It
So like,
seems
are you
like I'm
playing
right.
mind games? I'm so confused. You're working me into
I'm
these
trying to
corners where
empathize
it's like,
with what it's like to talk to me. I assume it's really annoying. So I'll try to be less condescending. It's not my intention to be condescending. I just come off that way.
I'm gonna start drinking Corona again, like my chat are saying.
I don't want you to drive. I don't want to drive you to drink. I will try to be less condescending.
Okay, can
If you think I'm being condescending, just call me out on it. That's fine, and I'll do my best not to.
I appreciate that, but can you appreciate? Like, I don't mind having these difficult conversations. I mind the way that they've been presented to some degree, and I mind to some degree having them with someone that I don't know that well. Like these are the kind of conversations I appreciate having with someone like I really respect, and they're not to say I disrespect you or something, but it's more so like I know you well and I know you're asking me questions for my best intentions. When I start to feel like I'm being set up for mental traps where it's like, oh, what's that? Give me a second. I just need to think of this. Like, why did you beat your wife? And it's like, wait, no, what? No, I didn't. And then you're like, bite the bullet. Just
But I
answer the
did.
question.
I did beat
Why
my
did you
wife.
beat your wife? Why did you beat your wife? And it's like, no,
I
wait,
made a whole
what?
video about why I used to beat my wife.
Well, no, I'm talking about your questions to me. And then I'm saying, no, that's not what
No, but
happened.
I'm saying-
Here's
I'm saying
like,
I'm trying to lead by example. If you say why did you beat your wife, I'll just answer truthfully.
so but that's
I
the
don't know if
thing.
I beat
is
her,
that
I
projection
hit
onto
her
me?
if
Like
I-
you want me to be like you when I just am not. I don't have that answer.
Uh,
I don't have the
I don't want you
desire
to.
in me. There isn't this
I
desire
don't
in
want,
me that's like, yeah, no, I wish migrants would drown. I don't have that answer for you because that's not how I feel. Whereas your answer simply is, yeah, I think 11-year-olds are hot. And maybe that's your answer, which, is pretty freaking wacky,
I didn't.
but I'm
Whoa,
still
whoa,
talking
whoa!
to you
I didn't.
here. Or I
I
thought they
didn't.
were in that movie, but I don't have that kind of
Yeah,
answer. You want
yeah.
me to
They're not
bite the
all hot.
bullet.
I don't even think all, 18-year-olds are hot. Some of them, everybody's got their own proclivities. Now,
You want me to bite bullets I can't bite. That's the problem. And
well,
that's not to say I don't have strange things about my mind, because I feel like this is what you look for. You're like, everyone has strange things in their mind. Everyone has messed
I
up
don't think I,
thoughts,
I don't think
and I
I
want
don't I
to
don't
I want to find
I
that in
don't think
other
I'm
people and
asking you.
have them be honest about
No,
it. But this
I
just
think
isn't
the
it.
bullet I'm looking for you to bite is not strange at
Okay,
all.
what's the bullet you want me to bite?
It's going to be condescending. I'm going to be advising you. Are you sure you are
All
ready?
right, let's get the condescension.
If I were you, I'm going to guess how you feel.
And I'll tell you if you're wrong or right, because you've been misreading me a lot this call. I'll just tell you that.
Okay.
But
If I were you, I would probably um regret attempting to block the ship on one level. Not overall and not holistically. I would stick to my guns about why I did it. And I think your answer that there are better ways to accomplish these things is good. But I think you're still sidestepping the drowning part, which is the only part people are fixated on. And I think, based on how I detect you feeling, and I could be wrong, I would probably just say I regret doing something that could have ended up killing people. In a, and, you know, whether I believe the system's killing people indirectly, I could have much more directly ended up killing people, and I don't want blood on my hands. And I think there's a way for me to accomplish these goals and advocate for this without getting blood on my hands. And to the extent that I almost did or could have, I'm glad the ship brushed past us. I'm glad I failed to block it because that would have been a mistake.
I'm not going to
And
apologize or answer
that would
for
have
hypotheticals, though.
it's not an apology. It would be an acknowledgement if you are haunted by the idea that you could have ended up killing a bunch of people indirectly. If you're haunted by that, I would acknowledge that.
I'm not
I wouldn't be
haunted
too
by it
proud
because
to.
this is a hypothetical. Like, I have no haunting about this. Nor do I, like, okay, sorry, I've just got to be, like, the ministers that put
That's
in the
fine.
policy in Australia where they said, nope, stopping all the boats, no more, zero, we're putting out advertisements, we're taking them all
Hey,
back, we
I
don't
don't
care
want
if
to do
there's a
this
few drownings.
whataboutism thing.
As
You're
long as
assuming that
it
I have a very
stops the overall trend of drowning and
stop.
death,
You're
then we're
the problem
happy.
with your
I don't think they
whataboutism.
have.
Stop
Sorry,
it,
go ahead.
Lauren. The problem with the whataboutism arguments is that you're assuming I have views about other politicians or your political opponents, or that I am one that I don't have. I don't care about that. And bringing them up does not answer the question of um, the problem, I think, or the part that freaks me out
Sorry,
is
one
that
second, one second. I'm so sorry. Sorry, real life called.
I understand.
All right, sorry. Continue.
The part that freaks me out is the idea that you did something that could have resulted in people drowning, and that you either are not disturbed by this, and when I say disturbed by it, I'm saying in a complex way. You may still be proud of what you did or attempted to do.
I feel like you're not thinking hard
And
enough about what you're saying. Do you think that
okay,
every BLM activist that takes over a street should feel the same way I feel because they may have possibly stopped an ambulance? Should they have an
well, why don't we
eternal?
let's make the analogy being a BLM activist blocking an
The only
ambulance.
difference is what they'd be doing was supporting illegal activity, whereas what I was doing was supporting the
I don't
application of
like
the
the
law.
whataboutism argument. We can go down
No, no,
this
no,
road,
no,
but
no. It
I don't
matters
think it's
because
gonna.
you're
I don't
putting
think
me
it's
in
a
a
good idea.
position of wanting me to feel bad about a hypothetical that didn't happen that you could apply to
I don't
absolutely
want you to
anyone.
feel bad. No,
And
no,
I
no, no, no.
feel
I think you're
like my
misunderstanding.
chat,
You're
how my chat
misunderstanding.
are reading it is they're saying he's
Wait.
projecting his own self guilt onto you, Lauren.
Yes,
He's
exactly,
trying to move
exactly,
the
exactly.
goalposts to make you sound guilty when you're not.
No,
And it's
let me
really
let me explain.
frustrating.
I think you're misunderstanding then. I'm saying this is how I would feel, and this is how I am guessing you feel. If you don't feel this way, then I have new advice.
Okay.
So if you don't feel haunted by the possibility that you could have killed people by blocking the ship, then I would certainly not say you feel that. I don't think you should lie. I'm saying that this is how I would feel. So if you don't feel haunted by that, then I still think you're way too defensive. Then I
I
think you just need to say
because there's nothing I can say because people are they're creating a hypothetical I need to apologize for. Nothing happened. The boat went
you don't need
by.
to apologize. No,
Even if
no,
it
you shouldn't
had been
apologize. You
stopped,
should never apologize. You shouldn't apologize. Don't get, but you're getting way too defensive. Then you just need to stick to the point. The central point that the problem people have is that you did something that could have resulted in people drowning. You just have to say, yes, I did, but I thought it was the right thing to do, and I still think it was the right thing to do.
okay, that's fair.
And
I thought it was
and
the
you know,
right thing to do. I thought it would lead to less death. I still think that. Yeah.
great. So then just say that. I wouldn't
It's not
dance
the
around and
approach
say,
I would
well,
take
say like,
today
well,
because I think it needs to it needs to remain in the government's hands.
okay, but
Unfortunately, because
you have a it gets complicated when you say it's not the same approach I would take today because it sounds like you're trying to have it both ways.
no,
And
no, no,
I
no, no,
would just
no, no, no. It's not
be
the same
really
approach I'd
clear.
take today because in retrospect, it's not helpful. It wasn't. It didn't have the
That's fine, but the
effect.
only reason anyone brings this event up is because they think you're either heartless or they think that you're super radicalized.
And I think they don't
And
understand anything about immigration policy or anything that's happening on the ground there. Whenever I hear them say this.
that's fine, but whatever they need to understand, you're not going to be able to impart in this one conversation. So if it were me, um, I don't know, I would just own it and be like, yeah, I did something that could have resulted in people dying. And, if you want to get into kind of like super serious activism, that's some of the shit that you have to wrestle with it. And I've wrestled with it, and I think I did the right thing.
What if I sat here and I spent this whole call pressing you on how your review of Cuties may have made a child get raped,
Let's do
and
that.
that you should apologize for that?
Let's go through
Do
it.
you
We
okay?
can. That's
Let's
fine.
flip that script. Do you think that that would be an appropriate line of questioning?
Uh, I mean, you lost your Patreon because of this event, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so if I lost my Patreon, or it was a widely seen criticism of me that I caused a child to get raped, or could have, like nobody else has said that, but hypothetically, do you want to pretend they have?
Yeah. Let's just
And
pretend.
I'll walk you through what I would say.
Yeah, because once again, it doesn't matter whether someone said it or not. If you were popular enough, I'm sure people would. If it got like,
Oh, excuse me.
I'm not trying to condescend, but
Excuse me.
people say a lot of things on the
Well,
internet about
okay.
everyone.
Right. Okay. So what I would say to that is, yes, I can see how talking about these things in a nuanced way in a forum for people who are largely not the brightest people. It's not like if I wrote an academic paper about cuties that only PhD students or whatever were going to read. you can have a little more leeway with that. And that's part of my problem with Cuties is maybe Netflix isn't the right place for it because it is much more easy to misinterpret when it's just being blasted to a mass audience. And like YouTube audiences often don't even watch the video. So I would say, yeah, that is one of the downsides to talking about a complex, nuanced, and dangerous topic in such a blunt way with no disclaimers and no guide to explain to people what I'm fucking talking about on a huge platform with tons of viewers, that people are going to misinterpret what I say and then go do something horrible as a result. Absolutely. And I have to live with that. And so do you, because you can't stop me. I'm not going to start bringing up like, whoa, what about Lauren Southern? Have you seen her videos? What do you think she's doing? What about the people? What about your like? Don't defend yourself. Just don't. You don't have to. Just be like, yeah, you're right. People could have drowned. They didn't, but they could have.
They didn't, but they could have. They didn't, but they could have.
That doesn't change my stance.
That doesn't change my, yeah, okay. That makes sense. They didn't, but they could have. But either way, the larger intent was to prevent more drownings.
Maybe you don't have the balls to drown 50 people to save 10,000. I do. So maybe you shouldn't be an activist.
Well, okay, this comes into
military commander. Maybe you can't be maybe you couldn't be president.
I think the way you stated that sounds really bad. You don't have the balls to drown. That sounds like it's being done actively, right? I think there's a big.
I would do. I would go for.
There's a big distinction between actively doing something and something being a fallout effect.
No, fuck that. Just call him a pussy. Just be like, look, I could be a military commander and you couldn't. That's all I've learned from this conversation. I'm willing to kill dozens to save thousands, and you're not. So go fuck yourself. I don't agree with you. I don't feel that way. I'm not willing to do that. I don't even think your cause is good. I don't agree with your anti-immigration stance, and
Why?
I think it's overall like and kind of inherently racist.
Why? What's race? Who said the immigrants have to be a certain color?
Well, they are.
Right, but what does that have to? What is illegal, and what does illegal immigration have to do with race?
My point is that I'm not giving you this advice because I agree with you. I'm just saying if this is your stance, I don't get why you don't just like, lay it out. Just say like, fuck it.
Okay.
What are they going to say to you?
No. That's interesting. That's interesting.
If you say yes, if you put 50 immigrants in a cage and gave me a lever to drown them, and I knew it was going to save 10,000, that there's no other way to save them except that, I would do it.
No.
What the fuck are you going to say?
No. You're fundamentally like that's like trolley question stuff, right? Because then that's the fallout. The fallout of an action is different than directly doing an action. So like I would not
to hear you explain this shit.
Well, they have to because otherwise you're not going to if emotionally. I get what you're saying, but people, if you don't have time to listen to the depth and complexity of an idea, well, then too bad. You're not going to understand it.
I thought the girls and Cuties were hot. No.
Okay, well, maybe not. See, you're projecting your mind onto mine again, and that's the fundamental problem here, is you're projecting the way you think about situations onto me. I don't want your advice.
Then I'll stop.
But like, that comes into, okay, so I have the ability to kill one person to take all their organs to save 5 in a hospital. No, I think that's wrong. I think that the fallout of a situation is different than directly contributing to that situation. The fallout of one solution is different than a direct action. I don't know. I wish I had a whiteboard here and my philosophy professor, but I don't, so I'm explaining it as best. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so hey, you ever played The Last of Us?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so it's the ending of The Last of Us.
I never finished the game.
Well, you should.
All right.
Because it's the trolley question in a big way.
You recognize there's a difference between me. let me try to think of a good example here. Let's say I decide to go to a different school, and a friendship of mine falls apart, and we stop being friends. We'll just use my good friend Julia as an example. I decide to go to a different school. Julia and our friendship falls apart. Versus me looking at Julia and saying, "F you, Julia. I don't want to be friends anymore." You realize there's the same result, different ways that it happened, right? That's why I disagree with your assessment of this whole migrant situation, your assessment of the whole, I have balls to do this. Like, no. There is one thing that's being, no, it's not about that. You are misportraying the circumstance. There's a difference between actively killing people and the death of people being the fallout of an action you're trying to do because you're trying to save people.
Then I have a new statement I would make. I would say it's not my fucking fault if people want to get in shitty ships and essentially drown themselves and then count on somebody else to come pick them up. They've already rolled the dice, endanger themselves, and then it's my fucking fault because I failed to block the ship that they're counting on to save their asses.
See, but this is why it's so difficult to have these conversations with people in general, and why I tend to just, yeah, you're right. I do kind of just get defensive and flail, and I'm like, oh, what's the effing point? Because even in like that statement you made there's just a fundamental misunderstanding of what the whole context of the immigration situation is. So even having hypothetical conversations, moral conversations, if you don't even understand what the dynamics, it's not the people's fault that got on the boat. It's not. A lot of them are being pushed into it by horrific human traffickers that are making a ton of money off this, and they're promising them paradise. Okay. So I think that needs to be stopped. So I couldn't even make, like, this is why I'm also like, I'm not sure I want your advice. It's not because I don't think you're a smart person. I think you're very clever. But I don't think you understand the circumstances. And I don't think most people do. And perhaps I need to get better at explaining it. But I've made documentaries on it that people just don't watch when they hate me. So I don't bother about it. If you want to watch my documentary, watch it. If you don't, don't.
Not defending yourself. But my advice is only about not defending yourself. I don't know about the circumstances, and I don't. If you want to explain them, you can, but I don't. It's not super relevant to what I'm trying to say. Is that when somebody asks you a question of like, do you think it's irresponsible to do something that could result in death? I would just directly answer that without trying to give context.
Do you think it's irresponsible to get in your car in the morning when you could get in a car crash and kill someone?
Most people do that. Most people do not try to block rescue ships with flares and rafts.
So no, okay. So let's. So this is.
It falls apart instantly.
No. It doesn't fall apart instantly. I had two of the top lawyers that I hired in California when we were going against Patreon. In my case, we went through all of the different moral complexities of this question, because this is exactly the question that was being asked: is you did something that could have potentially led to loss of life, and that was the accusation by Patreon. So my lawyers and we sat there. And for hours and hours and hours, over a year, we went through the possibilities of these moral complexities and where they could lead and what accusations could be made against who and what. And this is their full-time job. It's not our full-time job. And their thoughts on it was every single day people make decisions like that could potentially hurt or kill other people. You were going to partake in something that was potentially going to cause loss of life. The only reason that people are excessively pissed about this one is because there is a moral value, there is a current societal feeling towards immigration that people have put a lot of their attention onto. There is a current inherent just obsession with this topic and a hatred against me. And so this moral question of your behavior could have resulted in this has been blown up 10,000-fold in addressing me, when you could ask this question about almost every policy a politician puts in place, about every action people take every day, about the boat that people tried to stop the Sea Star. You could ask this about everyone, but it is being focused on me for inherently political reasons and because this is an inherently emotional subject for individuals. But if you look at it on an actual logical level, you are asking me to apologize for a hypothetical that can be applied to most people on a daily basis.
So, um, I don't want to continue to be condescending. That what you just said doesn't resonate with me. Do you care?
I understand that you probably are going to say that there's a difference between this political activism and getting in your car in the morning. I get that.
Do you care
Do I care about what?
that what you just said doesn't resonate with me?
I
Or do
fear
you care about why?
that there's. I fear we're going to have difficulty resonating with each other at any point because there's been some fundamental misunderstanding at some point here. And also, I am getting a feeling, I'll be honest, of bad faith from your side. And it's causing me to get frustrated and not engage with you on a, like, oh, let's just have a conversational level. It's pushing me to just be like, you're trying to work me into a corner here that I'm not agreeing with the premise you're putting down. I don't want to, the fact that I'm even, this is precisely why in our Twitter conversation, I remember reading your message when you're like, I don't just want to chat anymore. I want to question you about your past. I was like, oh gosh, this is going to be like an inquisition. This is going to be not
You want to
trying
change
to
this?
understand my thoughts. This isn't going to be trying to understand my approach to things. You're going to want me to say certain things to you. And I
I don't care what
remember,
you say.
I remember doing
Wait,
it.
wait, stop. Do you want to talk about something else?
I do, but can I finish this thought?
Yes.
Okay. I remember doing an interview with I did a horrible documentary. It was a terrible decision with The Atlantic, and it was just the worst hit job of the world. I really trusted the guy. He completely cut out so much context to everything we were talking about. And I remember I should have recognized this by the 50th time he asked me if I was a racist, because you don't ask someone the same question 50 times unless you didn't like the answer you got the first 50 times and you want a different one. He didn't want me to not be racist. He wanted me to be racist because that was helpful for his documentary. So he kept pressing on that question to get the answer he wanted. You want me to feel bad for a hypothetical that I'm never going to feel bad for because it didn't happen.
I don't want you to feel bad.
You want me to feel bad for the possibility of a hypothetical.
I literally just gave
Or
you
you
the
want me to
advice of
say that
I just get my advice. The last piece of advice I gave you was to just say that you don't feel bad. If you don't feel bad, then just say you don't feel bad.
I don't. And I said that the first time. I said,
Okay.
I mean, I
So
think I could have taken a
I
better
don't know why you think I
approach,
want
but
you to feel bad. I feel bad about what you did, but you don't.
all right, let's
You don't
move
have to feel
on.
the same way about it.
I
I don't.
didn't, yeah, like my chat, or like, I didn't say you should feel bad. I just said it should haunt you. Like, okay,
It's
I'm
not.
just gonna, I'm not trying to appeal to my chat, but like my chat are seeing a lot of what I'm seeing, which is, I genuinely feel like
I'm
there's like
sure
a
they are.
level of manipulation. It feels like a level of manipulation going on here.
I am haunted by it, and I would be if it were me. And if you're not, then fine. There's this assumption that we have to feel the same way, and I don't agree. I don't care if you feel the same way. I'm interested to find out how you do feel.
Then why do you keep giving me advice on how I should feel?
I'm not. I'm giving
Or
you
what I
advice
should
on how you should
say?
communicate. Because when I'm asking you how you feel about what happened, you're bringing up all these politicians and ships and shit that I've never heard of, and I don't fucking care.
Well, that kind
So
of, okay, well, that's the fundamental problem is you don't know anything about this topic.
I don't.
So you feel haunted. You're like projecting a feeling that I should explain about a
Have you
topic you
seen
don't
Cuties?
understand. Yeah, I did see Cuties and I wrote a review of it myself. So this is
Okay,
what's very frustrating for me is like I feel haunted about this
that's fine.
topic. I understand none of the
Do you think
context
do you
about.
think
I
that
don't know
people
any
do
of the
you think that
politicians,
people
and you
do you
should
think that
communicate the same way I communicate about the topic,
okay,
Lauren.
are you saying I shouldn't? Do you think people who have not seen Cuties have no right to have feelings about it?
Actually, yes. I think that's probably a bad idea for them to have strong feelings that they articulate about something they haven't seen.
Do you think I can control how I feel about hearing a story about you?
No, I guess
Okay,
not.
so if you don't want to talk about it with me, if I don't know a lot about the situation, then just say that.
But you're acting like you do. That's the
I don't.
frustration. Then why are you
Okay,
acting
then
like
just
you
say that.
do?
Just say, look, I don't want to talk to another condescending douchebag who doesn't know what he's talking about. I understand that the story is salacious and maybe upsetting to you, but here's some articles. If you read these and then you still want to talk about it, then get back to me. But right now, I'm not going to talk about it with somebody who's uninformed.
Oh, you're right. You know what? You're right in that sense that I should have just been straightforward from the beginning. And that's why at the beginning, which first mistake, I tried to explain the wider context of the problem because I was like there's no way we're going to be able to have this conversation without the wider context, without an understanding of
Okay.
the politics. And
Okay. So
it's just
that's
impossible.
fine. That's okay. Then that's fine. Then we can't talk about it. So the only thing I would say then is, um, and you could say this is the reason, but a lot of people who are wary of you or freaked out by you are not going to have a deep understanding of the context, and they're never going to.
True.
So
Which is why I
if you're
rarely,
not
which is
into,
why I responded initially. I
that's
don't
fine.
want to
That's
do
fine.
this
You can
inquisition about
absolutely
my
choose.
past
You can
because there's no
absolutely
point.
choose to not. Sure, you can choose to not engage with people who don't have the context, but the only issue is that you can't talk across the divide then, if that's the case. But maybe that's fine. Maybe you don't need to. Like your critics are not going to
That's not
you're not
true.
going to be able to address what your critics are
I
saying
can
about
speak
you
to
if you
people who are going to listen to what I'm saying rather than people that are going to give a moral judgment about a circumstance they don't know about.
there's a lot more of the second group than the first group. That's all I'm saying.
Sure, that's fair.
Okay.
I'd
Well,
speak
let's
to
move on.
Destiny because he's not like that, you know? This is kind of the common factor between us is that we can speak to someone who doesn't immediately do that moral judgment. You should feel this way. I feel this way about this. So you have to feel this way about this. And this is how you should communicate your feeling about that. He just tries to understand your perspectives and views.
I don't think you should feel bad about it.
But you keep projecting how I should explain how I feel about it and how you feel about it, even though you don't understand the complexities of the situation. And
Well,
once again, I don't say that to.
one of my suggestions to you was that you should say, um, I don't give a fuck. Like that's
But
not
why
my
would I say
problem.
I don't give a fuck when I clearly give many fucks because I've done documentaries on the subject and spent years investigating it? I deeply care about the
That's fine. That's
situation,
fine.
which is why I can't just. Which is why
My
I get
point is
hyped up and
my
start
point is
talking
that
about it and trying to explain all of the details because I really
yes,
care and want people to understand, not to just have this, don't care, blah, blah. Like,
my my point is that I what you are perceiving or intending to be as giving context is coming off to me as evasive. So like there's no question you can ask me about cuties that is going to take me longer than like 15 seconds to answer.
it's a fucking Netflix movie about girls twerking. This is one of the most complex historical issues in the world. Migration. It's got thousands of political policies written about it, thousands of lives lost, millions of different stories and routes people take. Like, what the fuck? You expect me to answer that simply just because you can answer a simple question about an hour-long Netflix movie about little girls? Like, it's unbelievable.
Um, I could say the same. I could say that pedophilia and attraction to children and child abuse and human trafficking are huge issues with thousands of lives lost. Moving parts. The human brain is the most complex piece of machinery ever invented by nature or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying
You just said.
I'm not.
All right, continue.
I reject your claim that I'm telling you how you should feel.
Okay.
I don't think telling you how I feel is the same as telling you how you should feel.
Well, okay, so maybe I should have just clarified. I don't care how you feel about this circumstance because you don't have the context or understanding to apply a proper analysis, even emotionally, in my opinion,
Okay,
to this
that's fair.
circumstance.
That could be true.
That's my belief. And maybe
So then,
you'll
I
look into it more. I understand there are a lot of things that people have initial human disgust and outrage over, but I believe a lot of that actually comes from social conditioning.
I
I believe you've been
yeah,
socially
I'll
conditioned to an
absolutely,
extent to
abs-
have certain disgust
sure,
response about things we don't fully understand or have looked into.
absolutely, absolutely. Uh, and so then my next question is, how do you think we should handle it if the story scares me and makes me scared of you to some extent, and we don't really have time for you to give me the full context because it is too complicated.
I can send you a few
And
documentaries I've done on it and a speech I did on it. Like I can send you some more
yeah, but I'm
things to
saying
look
in this
into if you'd
conversation, we're
like.
already
Yeah.
having the conversation. So my
Yeah.
question is, how do we handle it if there's a story about you that scares me, that does resonate with me in a way that freaks me out, but you're saying that I don't have the context to intelligently form an emotion, much less express it to you, or expect you to care about it.
You
Do you
can you
think
can
that it's
form
just
an no. Oh, sorry. Finish your question.
I'm not attacking you. Do you
I
it's
just
an, I think
I
it's
had
a
an answer for what you were saying, but I want to let you finish.
well, yeah, I just want to genuinely ask you, how do we handle the situation? Like, clearly what we're doing isn't working, right? So like talking past each other where you feel like I'm moralizing and I feel like you are not like connecting with the kind of blunt points that I want you to hit. And you don't want to do that because you feel like doing that would be oversimplifying and missing the like real context and meaning of what happened. Do we just not talk about it, or is there a way to talk about it that's better?
There is a way to talk about it. You can absolutely form an emotion. You can absolutely express that emotion, but then don't put
Okay.
yourself in a position where you're giving me advice about something that you've just admitted you don't fully understand.
Yes. I don't want to be giving you advice on I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't want to give you advice on how to talk about this thing. It's more just about how to not appear defensive.
I can agree that I appear defensive, and I can agree that I don't address this as well as I would
Have
like or as concise
okay,
as
have you
I
seen
would
8
like.
Mile? Have you seen 8 Mile?
A long time ago, and I barely remember.
Okay, you remember the last rap battle in 8 Mile?
Vaguely, yeah.
So Eminem goes first, and his freestyle is about himself, about how he's a loser, about how his friend is an Uncle Tom, about how his other friend shot his dickhead off with his own gun, and it's like he's ripping on himself. And then when he finishes, Anthony Mackie goes next, and there's nothing he can say because he's already destroyed himself and the other person. There's nowhere to go from that. So I think I'm much more of that school. I wouldn't take it as far as I do, but like if you just take whatever the most true bad thing about you is with regard to this and just say it first, like what would anybody say to you about it?
So
I think that's what I'm trying to get at.
this
Not
is what I think is
I'm not
interesting.
trying to yeah.
When I first watched your content and when I listened to your conversations, I think you what I found, what I liked about the way your brain worked,
What do you
and
use to like?
fascinating. No. I just think you're applying it badly here. What I found interesting about how your brain worked was you feel there's, correct me if I'm wrong, you feel there's like this uniting factor in people of us all kind of having horrible thoughts and horrible things we've done that the ego and pride don't allow us to just own and address. Before I move on, can you confirm or deny that I'm analyzing that appropriately?
I think it's a similar thing. My lens is more that social norms where they currently are restrictive and isolating because we especially on social media and the internet in general, we cannot express things that are more true to ourselves. Instead, we're expected to sell ad time and be safe for a paper towel roll ad to play before we talk, rather than to really connect with each other and ourselves.
Hmm.
So it's kind of the same thing, but I think I find social norms stifle us at where they are now, so that it's harder for us to connect to each other, and it leaves us feeling like we're the only sick one in a world full of
Yeah.
normal people.
So I think I understand why you grasped onto it, this flare situation, as kind of that thing that would be that for me. This thing that I've done that is like people are horrified by, and maybe I just need to accept it, that I am this thing that is horrifying to the world instead of just completely misunderstood or whatever, or you want me to grasp onto that in some kind of way. But that is not the thing for me. I get annoyed when it's brought up because it was like literally such a short point of my life that gets so highlighted and is almost constantly misunderstood and is almost impossible to talk about, like in this conversation, because no one has the wider context or understands the policy issues or blah 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 blah. Even the people who think they do, like I know Lonerbox did a big video on it and could deep dive into that, but like that's not the thing that when I look at myself in the mirror and I think, oh my gosh, you're horrifying, Lauren, like I dislike this thing about myself, I just need to accept this thing about myself. That's not even in my peripheral. There are things I have like that because I'm a human being, and I have those things where I look in the mirror and I'm like, geez, like get your life together, get your mind together. That's not it. And so I've spent this whole conversation just kind of irritated with like this superficial thing that's been blown up for headlines that 99% of people discussing it don't even care about or understand and misinterpret. And I feel like you've projected that general understanding of people and want to connect people through the things they're horrified by in themselves to the wrong object. It's the thing that the public and the headlines like, but it's not the thing that personally does that for me. It's not the thing I look in the mirror and think about all day and toss and turn over at night about, you know? Does that make sense?
It does, but I still think you're telling me that I think that you should be horrified by what you did, but I don't think you should be.
You
I don't
don't.
think you have to feel. I don't think you should feel about it the way I feel about it. That's just how I feel, and how I would feel, I think, if I were you.
But
And how I feel. I
no,
mean, like
you wouldn't
all this,
feel that way if you were me because you'd have a lot more context.
well, you understand what I'm saying. If I were suddenly teleported into your body. Um, so I get what you're saying, that I think that you're just in denial. I
Mhm.
don't know. I'm thinking about it, but that's not what I was pushing at before. It's more like, um, I just think defending yourself is a bad idea. That's what I'm pushing
Do
against.
you
I
think
don't
in
want, and it
general,
makes both
like
of us
what
look
if
bad.
what if
It makes
people
us
are
both look
actually
bad
wrong about
in
you
general.
though? What if someone what if people are genuinely wrong? Should you not stand
Well,
up and say you're
let's
wrong?
okay. Why don't you interrogate me for a while, and then
I don't want to.
I'll I'll show you what I mean.
Or just
So
like,
ask me what we can flip. People think I'm a rapist or a pedophile or whatever, and you can ask me about it, and I will do my best to not defend myself, even if I think you're wrong.
no, but this is like what your I'm a pedophile video was.
Yeah.
This is like you just make a rap saying I'm this, I'm that.
Well,
But you,
no, that's a joke. That's a
yeah,
joke.
I know,
You're
but
not,
you're,
I don't think
I know that's a joke.
you shouldn't make a rap song called "I'm a Migrant Drowner." That's not a good idea.
So I shouldn't do what you did.
You shouldn't do what I did. No.
Do you regret that video?
No, but I have different goals from you.
That's what I was more interested about at the beginning of this conversation, because I
Right.
think there's a big difference between the two of us. There's similarities in the sense of how people react to us.
Yes.
There's a difference that disturbed me about you.
Okay.
This is something that when I look at you, I can't figure out. It makes my mind tick is I did something that, like I said, I'd go back and I'd do it differently now, but I did something that I genuinely in my heart was like, I think this is going to make a better world. I think this is going to save lives. I think this is truly politically important. And I am willing to make sacrifices to my reputation, to my ability to travel, to my life potentially, because I think this is important. I don't understand why you would make the same sacrifices reputationally and physically that I would for something like the movie Cuties or saying something edgy. That doesn't make sense to me.
It's not about cuties. It's about telling the truth. It's about if I sit down in front of my camera
But was it an
and I want
important truth? There are a lot of things
the
that are
truth,
true, but some are important and some aren't.
the truth is important
The
to me, specifically the ability to tell it. So if I turn my camera on and I sit down and I'm going to say, okay, let me give my unvarnished thoughts about this film. Um, I don't want fear of other people or social media companies to prevent me from doing that.
So, like, would you sit down and make a video, like, saying, okay, so when I think about the truth, obviously I'm a very pro free speech individual. I dislike the censorship going on. I agree people need to have more honest conversations, desperately.
Okay.
That's the only way we're going to fix any of this mess that we're in is honest conversations, hard conversations. This is a hard conversation, but I'm enjoying it to a degree. Some parts not so much, some others, yes. But like when I think of the truth, I think of like you could have an abusive husband that looks at his wife and says, "You are an obese woman, and people think you look disgusting." Maybe that's true. Was that an important truth for him to highlight? Or was it more important for him to use his time with truth to highlight that I love you? Maybe save his marriage. I love our kids and do this. Like there are truths that deserve to be highlighted and some that don't. And you can fight for free speech in both ways. I just don't understand why you chose that one.
I think that it's up to you to decide what's important for you to say
Is
and what
it?
is
You
important for
don't
you
think
to
there's
tell the
any
truth about.
greater you don't think there's anything greater than your own self-judgment?
When it comes to me deciding what I want to say or what's true, no,
There's
I don't think
nothing
so.
there's nothing
Because
greater that
because
dictates what is true and what
other
is important truth and what isn't
other
other
people
than
don't tell you
you.
not to say things because they're not true. They tell you not to say things because they don't like hearing them or they're upset about them. No one's complaining about my Cuties review saying it's not true that you think the girls in Cuties are hot. That's not their problem with it. They're saying it freaked us out and we hate it or whatever. That's the complaint. And so, um, yeah, we all have to make a judgment about like how important is this for me to say and how is it going to be received most likely, and then some kind of balancing act. But I believe that the how are other people going to receive it part for in most of society, uh, and especially online, is a bit oppressive, and I think we need to kind of expand. Just like 50 years ago or 100 years ago, we would never have been able to have most of this
No, but
conversation
words
because we
words
would.
are important. This is why people are horrified by what you say. And the thoughts we allow ourselves to have and to articulate are important to a degree as well. Now, I don't believe in censoring them, but like you said, I don't believe in censoring you saying that you feel haunted by some of my actions, right?
Yeah.
And there's a difference between people's disgust and dislike towards someone's behavior, what they speak, and censorship. That this is true as well. Now, once again, I will always bring things back to the book I'm reading in that moment. The very opening of Chesterton's Heretics, he talks about how everyone wants a more liberal, progressive world, and we all want to have free speech. We want to be able to talk about everything except everything, seemingly, because no one wants to talk about religion or what happens after we die or like deeper kind of questions. We just want to be able to talk about everything. And one point he makes is everyone who's pro free speech, they want to allow, you know, the nihilists to talk. And if you don't allow the nihilists to talk, then you're anti-free speech and you're making the world a worse place. And it's just words. All they're saying is, you know, the world is meaningless, life is empty. Why can't they just say these things? Great, let them speak, but don't act like there's no importance to what they're saying. Don't act like the only point is for them to be able to say it. Because if it is true, if what they are saying is true and it spreads that life is pointless, life is pain, and there is no meaning, then we would be giving murderers medals. And I don't want to live in a world like that. So what we say has meaning, and how people judge it, and how we choose to determine things of importance within our own mind and regulate our own mind matters.
Okay, so you're asking, I think, two questions. One is, why was I willing to say what I said about Cuties? And the second question is, like, why am I willing to face the social consequences? And then two, why did I want to say it in the first place?
I suppose that follows, yeah.
Okay. Are you asking me to go to the second question then?
Whichever one you would like to start with. I mean, I'm interested in
Well,
all
I
of them.
think I kind of answered the first one, and
Okay.
that those are my unvarnished thoughts, and I want to be able to say my unvarnished thoughts on my YouTube channel. What's the point of having one if I can't do that? For me,
Okay.
that's what I want.
Okay, that's
I don't
what you want to do.
else. Yeah.
Why do you feel
make-
that those thoughts are important? I understand you want to say them. Why do you feel they're important?
I wanted to engage with the part of the movie that I think resonated with the most with me. There's a lot of stuff in the movie about like religion and culture and assimilation that I didn't care that much about. And that's not the part that people were reacting to. I mean, most people don't even know about that part. What resonated with me was objectifying children.
Why do you feel like it was important that you make a video about what resonated with you?
I think that's kind of how I make most of my videos, is like, and even this conversation. I asked you about the migrant thing, not because I think it's like objectively the most important thing to talk about. It's the part that I'm stuck on. And so after watching Cuties, that's the part that hooked me. And I think that's just how I decide to what I feel the strongest about is what I'm going to make a video about.
But like, why? So it's just based on, you know, what you feel that day and what's kind of people are talking about. So it's just like you know, a lot of people, that's fine. A lot of YouTubers make their decision that way. I feel like I like this topic, and so I'm going to talk about it. But the reason that people are horrified by yours is they're like, you had a feeling and a thing you wanted to talk about, and you know, that's not. There's nothing noble or not noble about just making a video because it's viral or because you're interested in it personally. But there is a question when that topic comes to something that can harm the mental state of the populace, right? So like if someone said,
I'm happy to answer that question if you want to ask, but I choose I'd say feelings probably are the main thing.
Yep.
That sort of drives my channel's nose. And the other thing is like, do I have something to say that is unique? So if I watch Cuties and I think, oh, this is horrible child abuse, child porn, and that's all I have to say about it, I probably wouldn't have made the video because it'd be like, there's no point in me saying that. Everybody else is already saying it. So I'm looking for things where I feel like I have something like genuinely meaningful to add to the sphere.
What was meaningful about what you added?
Just because something's
different, and just because something is something other people aren't saying doesn't mean it's meaningful.
No, I'm saying I have two requirements. It has to be meaningful, and it has to feel to me like it's not something everyone else is saying. So like I didn't make a video on Ghislaine Maxwell. So I'm like, okay, like yeah, she trafficked children, she got arrested, she got charged, and now she's convicted. Like, yep, I don't
No,
have anything
but
to say
do
about
you
that.
understand what I'm saying when I say just because it's something different that you're saying, just because it's something that hasn't been said by other people, doesn't mean it's something that's meaningful or needs to be said. So I'm asking you what about
Yes,
what you
that
said
alone does
made
not
it
make it.
meaningful?
Well, I can tell you what's meaningful to me.
So you just did it because it's meaningful to you, not because you felt it was going to have some
Well, I
greater
felt
impact or
no,
effect
I
for
felt it would
goodness
resonate
or
with other. Yeah, absolutely. I felt it would resonate with other people and mean something to them too.
what kind of resonation were you looking for in people? Like what were you seeking when you like I can tell you, you know, what I'm seeking when I make certain videos or when I discuss certain ideas, what kind of thing I want to resonate with people. And sometimes it's a hit and a miss and people resonate in ways where I'm like, "Oh man, that's not what I was trying to communicate at all, right?" But I'm trying to understand like yeah, why did you feel this was meaningful? Why? Why? There's a big why there for a lot of parts of that.
Um, I think most people who end up sexualizing relationships with children probably don't know that they're doing that or don't intend to do that at the outset. There are definitely predators who know what they're doing and know that it's wrong. And then there are pedophiles who know that they want to do it and may or may not do it and, you know, may do it unknowingly to certain degrees. And I think that there's a lot of just everybody else who might end up flirting with a student or a personal training client. I used to be a personal trainer, and like it's very easily for those relationships to become sexualized. Um, and so, if we can't recognize when something turns us on or is tempting to us on some degree, I think it becomes much harder to prevent that from happening. So, on a societal level and on an individual level. So, there's a time in society, I think, where it was okay to just acknowledge that like 16-year-olds are generally pretty hot. And even though the age of consent is 16 in like half the country, that's still seen as like now it's seen as pedophilia to say that on the internet. And then you'll get weirdos who'll dive in and say like, no, that's a phebophilia or whatever, and they get really mad, and then it makes it more confusing, and they look bad, and then it's just a big like embarrassing car crash, and then nobody wants to touch it or talk about it. But I think the general understanding that teenagers are pretty attractive to adults, generally speaking, they can be. If we lose sight of that fact, I think that opens up the door to a lot of child abuse that doesn't have to happen. Subtle psychological child abuse, accidentally sexualizing relationships, or falling down a slippery slope and suddenly realizing you're doing something inappropriate that you shouldn't be doing, or never realizing it, or whatever. Um, it's like being an alcoholic. Like if you admit you have a problem, or you admit the temptation is there, then you know you shouldn't be around blah 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 alcohol or whatever the thing is that the destructive impulse.
Okay, I'm trying to grapple with this. Like for me when I hear that, I'm like, man, like that just doesn't apply to me. Like I don't generally I'm attracted to men who are well like just older than me. Like I don't even my own age, I'm like, you're a bit like, you know, like 5 years older than me. That's like my age
When you were a
range.
teenager, did you notice that you were able to form flirtatious connections with older men far over 18?
Far over 18. Um I had guys flirt with me, yeah, but
You
I
never flirted back.
recognized looking back that that was unhealthy very unhealthy power dynamics.
I'm not interested in moralizing about it. I'm saying you are aware that as a teenage girl, you were able to form like some kind of erotic connection with adult men, right?
When I was a teenager, I was attracted to other teenagers. Like that's a reality. But I recognized that there were adult men that were attracted to me. Yes, and that existed. Yeah,
And that if you wanted to, you could have probably sexualized those relationships.
sure. Yeah, this
Okay.
happens often. Now, but okay,
Yeah.
I got to jump
Well,
in here though.
my
I got to jump in here though, because this is why. So
okay.
I don't. First of all, I want to just unless you have like maybe studies or something to show me. I don't know if it's on a
I don't think
general
we
level. Okay,
I don't think we did a study to show anybody that adults are attracted to teenagers. You can if you're welcome to. Like, you know
I
what? Why
mean,
don't you
I
find
just don't. I don't like to
let's
me.
look. We've been
Okay, maybe it's
talking.
just my friend group,
Girl,
but
hold
my
on.
friend groups they generally are like it's like their own
Okay.
age,
Now here,
or
do me this favor. Do me this favor, Lauren. We've been talking for a while. Oh, it's a slow-paced
yeah.
conversation. Spend the next 2 minutes seeing if you can find any study that would answer this question. Are adults attracted to teenagers? Let's say 16-year-olds. Are 16-year-olds
Yes, I'm
genuinely
sure that
found attractive?
exists. Yes, I'm sure that exists.
Do you think the study would show that adults are generally attracted to 16-year-olds, or do you think it would show that actually they're not, and that it is a unique, weird thing that I'm saying?
Okay, what I was going to say there is I recognize that exists. This is where you get things like pedophilia, of course, where people act on these
I don't think
things.
pedophilia has anything to do with being attracted to 16-year-olds.
I was talking about being attracted to younger people in general. Like that's you get people
I know,
that
but right
are
now I'm talking
mismatched
about
aged.
teenagers.
Okay, so talking about teenagers, sure, yes, I'm sure there are a decent amount of adults that are attracted
Well,
to
are you
16 year
still
olds.
asking me why I made the video, or are
Can
we
I? No,
just
no,
gonna
no.
get
Okay,
lost in the
I wanted to get to a point. I was getting to a point here. My point was, I think a
okay.
lot of these things that we are attracted to do come from socialization. Would you agree with that?
You think cavemen were not attracted to 16-year-old girls?
No, I'm sure they were, but there are a lot of things that are due
Okay.
to
No,
socialization. A lot of
I don't think
factors.
that.
No,
I've
you
seen
don't think that there's a level of
no.
socialization in the fact that even just within like a small range, curly, big, poofy hair used to be what was hot and trendy in society, and that's what the hot girl had, and now it tends to be a certain different style. Now it's big lips,
I don't
big
think it
butt, this
has
kind of
that
stuff.
big of an
We have
effect.
styles and certain socializations that change
Yeah,
attraction
I hear what
to
you're
a
saying.
degree.
My answer is I don't think socialization has that big of an effect on age of attraction.
What about
Broad socialization. I think if you abuse children, they will be more likely to grow up to be pedophiles. I do believe that. But I don't think that like trends are going to make people are going to change the average age of attraction
do you think
of people.
social norms affect people's behavior?
Yes.
Right. Okay, so that's more so what I'm getting at. I was explaining it badly.
Well, I don't think they. Well, when you,
What, so
I think they
finish what I
affect
was
people's
gonna?
behavior. I don't think they dictate people's behavior, especially around sex, to the extent like gay people. Like no matter what you fucking do to them, they keep fucking each other in the ass, no matter how hard you try to make them stop. And so and they're willing to die for it. So I don't think that you can change people's sexual attractions that much with social norms. No.
So what about their sexual behaviors?
Yeah, I don't think you can change people's
So you
sexual
don't
behaviors
think
with
that when guys watch lots of porn and they start watching freakier and freakier porn, they don't start to want that in real life from women?
Are you asking me what I think? Or are you telling me what you think?
I
It's
think
clear what you
that.
think,
Do
and
you think that?
I know you think that. No, not really. I think it probably happens to some degree, but I think it's a kind of a superficial swaying on top. I don't think it matters that
Really?
much. Yeah,
I completely disagree with that. I think I see it all
I
the
don't see as
time.
much
I
positive.
think that
I see.
porn has severely affected people's relationships. And if you go
I
to
know
any
you
counselor, if you go to
probably think
any
Cuties,
if you
my
go to any
video, and
person who does
normalizing
work on this,
things.
they'll talk about how that is one of the major complexities that happens
That's
in most relationship dynamics is someone's watched a ton of porn and it's affected their desires and what they seek from their partner.
yes. I don't believe in that, but I
You
see.
don't
I get
believe
what
in
you're
that even
saying.
though it's observed constantly every day.
Yes, I don't really believe in it. I think there's probably a little truth to it, but it's not how I see things now. I don't
I'm sorry, that's
generally
just
agree
wild.
with
Like
that.
men, it's even.
I'm a wild dude. But I don't want to get stuck in the weeds here arguing with you about
No,
every little
it's not
fucking
the
point.
weeds. This is a fact. Okay. There
The
have been
weeds
a
are
ton of
facts. The weeds are
studies.
things
There
that
have
you
been a
think
ton
are
of studies.
facts.
You can speak to everyone
Okay,
on a
a tons
personal
of
level.
studies. You
Everyone,
could throw a stack of, you could hit me in the face with a
if
stack of these
you
studies,
simply
and
don't
I'm not.
believe that
I
pornography
don't believe
affects
you. I
people's.
don't agree with you, and I don't want to keep saying it. So what is your fucking question?
It's not a
Yes, I
question, it's
don't
a
agree with you.
statement. Porn affects people's wants
Okay,
and
okay. So
desires, and
you
when
want to
people
give
get
me
into
a short,
freakier and
you
freakier
want to give
porn
me a
and
short
they are
talk on the
exposed to
dangers of
certain. No,
pornography
no, no,
and
no, that's
cuties.
not what I'm doing. When people are exposed to certain things that they believe are normal, they start to desire and seek those
I
things in
understand.
their own
Can I,
relationships. So that
okay,
is
can I
why we
fast,
as a
can I,
society deeply oppose the idea of sexualizing children and ever even
yes,
acknowledging this,
okay.
even if it is
So,
true in someone's personal feelings at times.
yes, so we can speed run this and just skip to, you think I'm normalizing attraction to children, and that will end up with children being abused. And even though I think it's the truth or my personal truth, it is an immoral thing to do. And that is your personal problem with what I've said. Right?
That was part of the conversation that we were going to get to, but
Okay.
I wanted
Is
to actually get your
there,
thoughts on that.
well, if you have a question, I'm happy to answer it. But like, I feel like you're just you're trying to walk me through and tell me I agree with every piece of your broader argument, and that I agree with your broader argument. But I can tell you right now, I probably don't agree with any piece of your argument, and I don't agree with the broader argument. I understand it, and I understand why you believe it, and you might be right, but I don't agree with you.
But what if I am right?
Then by definition, that would make me wrong.
So would it not be important to try to investigate that?
I I don't know.
So have you spent time? So have you spent like I'm
So we're not.
genuinely
So we're
asking?
no longer. You actually don't have a question about what I think about this. The new question is it, um, is it incumbent on me to make sure that I am right when I am making a video like this?
I guess that's a
To make
good
sure that
question. Yeah.
to make sure I'm not normalizing child abuse.
Right. Yeah, I think that's an important question.
Okay. Um, if I find out that I have normalized child abuse on a grand scale or on a small scale, I will be haunted by it. Is it incumbent on me? I don't think so. I think that unless I am presenting myself as an educator, which I am not, although I guess in my Mr.Girl school videos, like the Black Lives Matter narrative and the gender narrative, I am giving out information.
But like, do you not
And
think
I am
we?
working on a video. Wait, let me
Okay.
think through this. I'm working on a video about pedophilia, so I will be addressing these things. I want to have it both ways. I want to say when I have my suit and tie on and I'm standing in front of the projector, then I'm an educator. And when I'm sitting in my chair filming myself in my office, then I'm just doing opinion and saying what I think and what I believe. And I think there's room for both. And maybe I need to be clearer about the division between the two. But ultimately, I'm going to say no. I think if you believe in what you're doing and what you're saying, unless you're lying, I don't think it's incumbent on you to know, I guess, something that can't be known. I don't think we can know the effect of what I'm saying.
People can know things to greater and to lesser degrees and understand things to greater and lesser degrees, though. So I know chat won't be happy about this, but I sympathize with the position you're in the sense of people saying like you have to be an expert in order to just give your personal feelings and opinions on things because you might harm other people if those opinions are wrong. That's a tough spot to be in. Sorry, let me just finish this thought or I'll forget it.
Sure.
But to an extent, I've actually kind of decided that some people who have that criticism of me are correct in when they've said, Lauren, you've made opinions and videos about migrants that may harm migrants or may harm everyone, if you're wrong. And I've thought to myself, actually, I do have a duty. We all have a duty to really observe and be careful about the language we have. Yes, there is some, there absolutely should be forgiveness, and there isn't in this age of cancel culture. There should be understanding when people mess up, but there should be a deliberate desire to try to get better and try to understand things. You know, we're all in a dark room, we're feeling out the walls and trying to situate ourselves. We're going to have parts where we get things wrong when we're trying to figure it all out. But I do think it is incumbent on us to try to figure it out. That's why when I've gotten such great criticism of my videos that I've done on migration, I've flown to these places and investigated it and tried my best to understand it better. Yesterday, I was just reading studies all day. I was just in Mexico studying migration patterns, meeting with traffickers, because if I'm going to talk about this, I want to really, really, really understand it and get it right. It is incumbent on us to understand things we talk about. Unless, you can...
Here that doesn't make sense.
Okay, sorry.
You're not, because my video is about my thoughts or feelings about Cuties.
Okay, well, I haven't seen the video, so that's probably a very fun. We're probably having the same fundamental problem we had in the conversation we were having earlier.
Let me just draw the differentiation here. You're saying it's incumbent on me to know what will happen as a result of what I've said. That's the question. Not, is it incumbent on me to know what I'm talking about? Of course I know what I'm talking about. It's a movie review. I know what I think of the movie, and I know what I think of culture, and I know what I think of 16-year-olds. So I can talk about, we're all experts on our own, sexualities. The question is, you're saying that it's incumbent on me to know how it's going to affect society if I say these things out loud. That's the question. Is it incumbent on me to research what effect what I say might have on people? And I don't think it is. I think it's something I care about, but I don't think it's incumbent on me to try to figure it out, viewing studies of how porn affects teenagers, to then somehow try to guess how my movie review is going to affect the world. I don't agree with that. I think that's a little loony.
Whoa, also, no.
Also, based on the reaction to my review, I don't think I left people feeling super normal. I don't think anybody was watching it and saying, hey, what this guy's saying kind of makes sense. This 11-year-old twerking stuff is kind of normal. I think that, if anything, the response shows that I pretty much hit a bullseye in saying this is uncomfortable, unethical, and confusing, and we're really bad at talking about it, and we might need to get better at talking about it. So I want to normalize talking about it, not normalize child abuse.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I do have to run in 5 minutes here. I'm starting to... Here's the reality. I'm going to have to watch the video if we're going to have a conversation about the effect that it had or what you were thinking. My question is more so, do you think that certain thoughts, or my conundrum that I'm having here, are certain thoughts that we have worth uttering? Are certain thoughts that we have meaningful enough to discuss? And are certain things in society or in ourselves, when we try to talk about...
I would rather destroy the world with my thoughts than silence myself.
Okay, we can portray a whole lot of, like I said, we can portray a whole lot of things as defense of free speech that aren't, and we just have to recognize that. I've been on the right a long time, so I know this people who put the N-word 7,000 times on Twitter and then say, how dare someone destroy, the First Amendment. And I'm like, okay, that was verbal graffiti. This is just simply not what I want to... I'm not going to spend hours of my time trying to defend, butt poop 57's Twitter account saying the N-word 700 times. I have better things to spend my time on. There are things that are worthwhile to acknowledge and unravel in ourselves, and maybe this is a worthwhile conversation. I don't know. But I'm more so, what I'm trying to touch on here is... is it important that people find a, shared oh, I too have that feeling, like a shared normalization of this feeling together? Is it important and in defense of free speech that a man be able to call his wife an obese whale when he feels that way? Or is there some level of importance and duty we have to temper ourselves in our thoughts and say, nope, that's a bad thought. I'm not going to put it out there. I don't want to normalize that. Maybe I'll talk about that thought with someone in an environment,
Yeah, I
outside of the
feel
public.
that
Like I think that we can probably
if your
agree.
goal is to share your thoughts or to be an artist, then no. If your goal is to get along with your wife, then yeah. But my role on
See,
YouTube, I am not a peacemaker. I'm not. My audience is not my wife. I'm um
but
my
that's
my
that's
work is
fundamentally what I'm asking is like, what is your meaning? What are you
yeah.
trying to achieve? Like that, I'm not
I,
saying I don't.
to get
I think
people
you're logically
to understand
consistent.
themselves, to get people to understand themselves better and understand each other better by being unvarnished and as honest as I can
Hmm.
while still being entertaining.
Hmm.
I'm not an activist,
Right.
so that's the big difference.
Right. And a lot of the criticisms I'm making of you, I could make of myself too. Criticism and having people analyze and find the demons inside themselves is all good and well, and I think something a lot of us do, but uh, without any sort of proposed cure, sometimes uncovering demons or taking them out of that Pandora's box is sometimes they're best left in there, unless you're
There's no
proposing
cure.
some sort of solution.
There's no solution. And I mean, there's some. I mean, I think there's things we could do to reduce child abuse, but there's no solution. I don't think humans are ultimately clean and pure beings that are meant to live in harmony, and we just haven't figured it out yet. So, to me, knowing yourself and knowing your neighbors and empathizing is that is my idea of utopia. I don't
See, we have
I
a
don't think we can.
very different idea of utopia. I think
Yeah,
the good in you is being able to understand humans are fundamentally flawed, and that's something a lot of people think they recognize, but then when it comes to their own clan or their own selves, or my side of the political spectrum or their side of the political spectrum, that idea ceases to exist. So I think that understanding of fundamental flaws in humans is something that is good in you, and I genuinely believe there is good in all of us. I'm a Christian, so I believe that God exists within all of us to some degree, and I don't think we should meditate as much as we do or find our shared experiences in our horrors with ourselves. I'm not sure that's healthy unless you're also meditating on the good to some degree as well, unless you also have a counterbalance, recognizing the bad,
what happens if
recognizing
you
the
meditate on
evil,
the
and then
horrors as well?
trying to work to heal from it. So what I
What
would say
happens
is
if
I think that you do something that's very interesting in actually being honest, and there's good in that, honest about evil in people, but not thinking that that's where it ends is where I start to see the problem.
you want me to say, you want me to moralize as well?
I'm not moralizing. I'm sorry, my son
I don't
wants
think
me
you
to
can
hang out.
choose what you feel. So I don't want to moralize about feelings.
I'll be right over, buddy. Stay out of the room. Mr. Girl is here. I'm joking. um, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't want to moralize about feelings.
I'm not,
I think
if you.
people.
I mean everything I genuinely said though. Like what do you mean when you accuse me of moralizing?
I think you're encouraging me to moralize.
Okay, that's the problem is you dislike the word moral because I don't think you get your morality from, or I don't know, you tell me. I get my morality from somewhere. I think it exists. I think
No,
applying
I'm
morals to
saying
our
I don't
life
think
is
you can choose
important.
how
But
you
do you?
feel. I don't think you can choose how you feel. So I'm not going to say this is how Cuties made me feel, and that's wrong. And anybody who felt the same way is wrong and evil. I don't agree with that. I don't even think it's a flaw.
Right, because you don't have a system of morality. Or do you?
No, I do.
Where
I
is it?
do.
It just comes
But
from within yourself?
do you think that you completely agree with the Bible's system of morality?
I don't fully understand it. I'm trying to. But I do have a
Do you
system of
think that
morality
if you
that
could
comes from
fully
it.
understand it, do you think your system of morality would be 100% aligned with the Bible if you could fully comprehend it?
My system of morality comes from God, so that's my system of morality.
Okay. So do you think,
I
so
personally
the answer is yes.
fail at that. My personal opinion varies from it
So you
sometimes, but
don't
my
disagree
personal
with the word
opinion
of
tends to be
you never
wrong a lot of
disagree with the
times
word of
too. And it
you're
tends
saying
to
that
make my
you're
life
saying that you
worse.
never disagree with personally with the word of God.
My personal morality comes from God, so how could I, on a moral level, disagree with
I don't
God?
know, but the answer might be no, that you always agree with the word of God.
I
My
always agree with
understanding
it.
is
I don't always follow it because I'm imperfect.
but you never think it's wrong.
I don't think God is wrong, no.
Okay. My understanding of most Christians is that they, or most religious people, is that they're kind of a la carte about their morality.
That's because a lot of
They
people
take
you
the
speak
parts.
to think they're Christians and aren't.
Okay, so a real Christian takes their morality 100% from the Bible.
From God. The Bible is one aspect of being Christian for sure, and a lot of people misinterpret it.
Oh yeah, I was just going to make the argument that even if your morality comes from the Bible or comes from God, I still think that ultimately you are deciding what parts of that resonate with you and what
I
parts
agree.
to
Some people,
follow and what
I
parts.
completely agree with you. There are a lot of people who do that. Absolutely, completely. I see that every
Okay,
day.
but you're not one of them.
I fail. I fail.
Okay,
But when
so yeah, that's fine. If you see that as a failure, then yeah, we just have different ideas. But yeah, I think my morality comes from my emotions, I guess. Stuff that I feel bad about, stuff that I feel good about,
all right,
things that sit with me, sit
right.
right with me, and things that don't sit right with me. And so, in my view, not only is it pointless to moralize about feelings and to tell people they're wrong for feeling that the idea of feeling lust is a sin or I mean any of the seven deadly sins. They're just feelings.
Okay, well, that's where we're fundamentally going to disagree. Is your importance
Do you think you can
is
sin? Do you
dictating
think
your
that you can?
morality, and I don't think that your morality is going to make the world a very good place. I don't think I don't think my morality. I don't think a Lauren Southern morality would make the world a good place.
I understand. You think God's morality make the world a good place, and I don't share
Yes,
God's morality.
right.
One big difference between my views and the views of Christianity is that I don't think you can sin in your brain. That's the name of the song is I can
Hmm.
fantasize about whatever I want. You could finish the sentence and say without being immoral. That's the real meaning of the song.
I think you can sin in your brain. I think that what we
I know.
fester on and what we stew on and what we choose to allow grow in our mind, it's like a garden, and we can allow evil and
Oh,
envy
I
and
think
these
what you don't.
disgusting things to fester in our
I think
mind and become very dark people. And we can allow good things to fester in our
I
mind.
think the exact opposite. I think that the exact opposite. I think if you don't face your darkness head on, bluntly and directly, that darkness will spread inside you and
Facing your
slowly take you
darkness and
over.
accepting it are two different things, though. Facing your darkness and saying,
I
I
think that if you don't
understand
face your
you,
darkness,
I know you're in me, I choose to acknowledge that you exist, but I reject you as the master of my soul. Those are
I
different
think if you
things. And
accept your
accepting
own
that
darkness,
darkness as the master of your
it will
soul is
spread
a very different thing
it will
from,
spread throughout your mind and turn you into a very, very dark person who thinks they're a light person.
I think that exists too. Yeah. I don't think I'm a good person, just so you are aware. Do you think you're a good person? And that's
Yes.
ultimately why I don't think I should be dictating morality to people. I think that's God's morality,
It's
not
like,
Lauren Southern's morality, because I don't think I'm a good person.
I do think I'm a good person.
Well, there we go.
I think I'm a better person since I started ruminating on my darkness more.
I guess we'll see where that leads us both.
Where do you want it to lead you? You want to be a good person by like shaming yourself into it?
I think people need to have an ego death before they can have any real growth.
Is that what you see your break from content creation as?
It was a small part of it. I've got a long way to go.
You think you need a bigger ego death?
Every day, yeah. That doesn't mean not being firm in my beliefs. That doesn't mean not standing up for myself or not taking action. And I think that's what I've misunderstood for a long time. But generally understanding that we are all fundamentally broken people, but still completely worthy of love,
You're trying to balance
is completely
knowing that you don't know what you're doing and knowing that you are trying to navigate a like confusing sea of who you want to be and what's right and what's wrong, but also speaking your mind and doing advocacy and
yeah, it's
like
very
just talking.
confusing. It's very confusing. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'd be much easier to
Yeah.
just be consistent with the Lauren Southern morality. That would be a much easier world to live in.
Yeah, I don't think those two things have to contradict each other.
I think when you choose your own morality and you bend the world to match it, a lot of things could be a lot more consistent and a lot easier, for sure. But I just don't think that leads to a lot of good. I don't think that. In fact, I know it. I
So do
see
you
it all
think
the
I'm
time.
consistent but evil?
I don't think you're evil.
You think the effect I have on the world will be evil?
I think the effect on the world of anyone acting purely out of, and I'm not saying you are these things, ego or narcissism, which I have done and do as well,
Well, you are saying
generally
that. You
has
are
negative
saying that when
outcomes.
you say that.
No, but
Well, you are saying that.
to say someone has done
You could
a
say it. Just say it. Oh,
no no
please
no no
just
no
say it.
oh, no
Just say
no
it.
no 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 let me
Just say
don't
it.
dictate my opinions to
Say
me, all
that you think
right?
I'm an egotistical narcissist.
No, you
Just
can,
say it.
someone can take actions.
Why?
No, because I think that narcissists
Oh
aren't so
God.
self-aware. But I think
I asked
people,
you if you. Of course they are. The best narcissists are self-aware. You think Trump's not self-aware? Of course
well,
he is.
maybe, I don't know. But my point was, that's not my
I asked
point.
you if you think I'm evil.
I'm not
I
trying
don't
to
want to hear
armchair
your fucking.
psychology
I don't want
you.
to hear your generic.
Hey,
I don't want to hear your generic shit. I want you to
are you
answer
gonna
this
let me
question.
finish my sentence? Are you gonna let me finish what I was
No.
saying? Because you're
Do you think I'm
misunderstanding
evil?
it.
No. I want you to answer. Do you think I'm evil?
Okay, I'll answer that after you let me finish what I was saying before. People
Okay.
every day can make narcissistic, egotistical kind actions. So when I was saying I'm not calling you those things, I'm saying certain actions and certain behaviors we all make every day can have those natures. All right, this isn't armchair psychology.
Okay.
Like that happened. Hi, I'm an empath. I'm
Right
going to tell
on.
you what your personality is. No, that's not what I'm doing here. Do I think you're evil? No, I don't. No,
Do you think the effect I will have on the world is evil?
no, I think it's a perversion of good. All evil is a perversion of good.
Huh. Wait, you just said all evil is a perversion of good?
What we see as evil,
And then
it's
you said
just
what I'm
good
doing is a
perverted.
perversion of good. Can we just skip the loop-de-loop and
Well,
just
no, no,
say
no, no,
that
no,
you think what I'm
because
doing?
it's more complicated. Here we go. You want the simple answers. I don't want to give you the simple answers. I want to have a deeper conversation.
It's not that fucking complicated. You said A equals B and B equals 3. And then I said, does A equal 3? And you're like, whoa, buddy.
So
That's too
what
much.
you would define as evil,
I'm asking
maybe,
by
but
your
how we define it is different.
how do you define evil?
Thank you. All right, let's do that. Um, all right, here we go. I was explaining this to my chat a few days ago when I was reading C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity, and he talks about the concept that he doesn't believe that the world is in a war between good and evil, dark and light, that instead it's a civil war. The world is inherently good, people are inherently good, but these things keep being perverted. No one ultimately wants to be in pain. No one ultimately wants to be decaying or dying or hurting or suffering. We don't want things that we seek as evil. We usually do things that are quote unquote evil because we're seeking something good. So when someone steals from a shop, they usually do it because they think they're going to get wealth, which is what they feel is a good thing. Most of the things we do are motivated by what we believe to be good, as I'm sure the things that you do are motivated by what you believe to be good. And all evil things that exist tend to be a perversion of good things. When you look at sickness or illness, that's a perversion of life, death, perversion of life. You've got, when you think of sexual things like rape and pedophilia, that's a perversion of something that is good, which is sex. Sex is a good, beautiful thing. Even biblically, it's a good, beautiful thing. And you can't describe a sexual perversion without describing what sex is first. So the inherent good thing, you can't describe life without describing, or you can't describe death without describing life. Most evil things that exist, you can't describe without first describing the inherent good thing. So a lot of the evil that exists in the world is simply a perversion of good, and a lot of people seeking good. So people can do evil while seeking what they believe to be good and seeking genuine good things. Does that make sense?
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that's a very, very simple way. But yeah, I believe that there's just perversions of good, but ultimately a lot of people, most people want good.
You think I want good?
I think that's what most people want, yeah. I
But you
think a
don't
lot
think
of us just misunderstand it. I think I
you don't think my
misunderstand it
cutie
every day.
you don't think my Cuties review will cause good?
I don't know, I haven't seen it. I'm more so talking
Well,
about
just based on what
where
I
you
told
get
you.
your morality
Based on my
from.
description. Based on my description of it.
No, I don't. I don't see. I haven't seen it, so I really don't want to give any sort of definitive
Based on my
opinion.
description,
But
okay,
based
fine.
on
We'll say
your
my mini Cuties
description,
review that I gave you.
I don't think it's good for us to ruminate and focus and try to find shared understanding in aspects of
Bad
our
thought.
minds that I think are sick. I think we can talk to each other about them with prescriptive solutions. I think that's healthy.
If you could design human sexuality with regard to age of attraction, how would you set it up? So when you're 10, you're attracted to other 10-year-olds and maybe 12-year-olds, maybe 9-year-olds, like a little range around it. And then as you get older, when you're 18, you're still attracted to 16-year-olds, but not 15-year-olds.
I don't like appeals
And
to
then
nature
when you're,
because the difference between humans and animals is that we actually think about our morality and we think about the things that we do and we consider and we feel bad and we have
wait, I want you to answer
morals.
my
So
question. Will you
appealing to
answer my
human
question?
nature.
If you were the designer of human sexuality, I want to propose something to you.
Hmm.
Will you answer my hypothetical?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm 36.
Hmm.
If you could put hard stops on my age of sexual attraction at 36, well, would you put hard stops? Basically, what ages do you think I should be attracted to? Ideally, what would be good, and how much? Would it taper off? on each end, or would it be hard stops? That's my first question.
Generally, I think it's healthy for people to be in relationships that are, uh, you know, within their.
Will you answer my question?
I am about to do that.
Hard stops or taper off?
What do you mean
Are
by
you
like?
willing to go on a roller coaster of a hypothetical question with me? That's my first question.
If I were the designer, probably hard stops to be
Are you
safe.
willing to are
Sure,
you
let's
willing
do
to go
it.
on
All right,
are
hard
you wi- are
stops.
you
Let's just play it
okay.
safe. Yeah.
Are you willing to keep your hands and arms inside the vehicle at all times?
I
Of
don't
the
think
roller
about
coaster.
that. Of the roller
The
coaster?
hypothetical roller coaster.
Sure.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Hard stops. What age would the bottom stop? But we don't care about the top age. What age would the bottom stop be at if I'm 36?
Based on my excessive reading of our relationships for video content, I 36-year-olds should probably not be dating people in their early 20s. So I don't know, like let's keep it, 36. People that are like 5 years younger, 5 years older. That sounds cool.
Okay. So if you were designing human sexuality, a 36-year-old would not find a 30-year-old attractive in the slightest. That would be the moral ideal.
I'm not sure. Whatever. Let's do that. Sure. For the sake of where you're going.
Okay. That's interesting though, because that means that I'm watching like I don't know. Who's like a attractive 25-year-old like actor.
I don't. Okay, so whatever. You watch it and you don't find them
Wait, what's
attractive.
her
So what?
face? Spider-Man. What's her Zendaya.
Zendaya. Sure. Okay.
I would be watching Spider-Man and I would be like, look, two children playing around.
Just because you're
and
not
like if I see
attracted to
Zendaya's
someone
butt.
doesn't mean you have to think of them as children.
Yeah. I know, yeah, I agree. That's not fair. But I'm saying if I see Zendaya's butt or body or close up of her lips or something, I'm like, this doesn't resonate with me. I feel
What's wrong
nothing.
with that?
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying it's an interesting uh, proposition. Okay, so this would be the way my girlfriend's 26, so that would work. Um,
Like for me,
so you're
I
saying,
I, I just don't.
wait.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I want to understand. You're saying this would be ideal morally,
You asked me in a
right?
hypothetical, and I just gave you answers so we could
I know.
continue down it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my next question is that to be clear, this would be the moral ideal to make sure that people were good, I guess. Right? I think that's what I asked you. Something like that.
Generally when we see like these abusive relationships take place,
Yeah.
there's
No,
like this
I'm
crazy
not.
age gap, like, oh man, he's
Oh
50,
yeah.
she's
I'm
20 or
just
whatever.
clarifying.
Like, yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you're asking me in a hypothetical, sure. It's not like people would
I
notice
don't have a
anyways.
plan
They
for what
wouldn't
I'm going
care.
to
They'd,
say.
yeah.
I'm not trying to trap you. I don't know what I'm going to say. So here's my next question. Do you emotionally if you could push a button to make this really happen, not just me, not just a chemical castration of me, but of everybody, would you do it?
Chemical castration?
No, not chemical castration, but a sexual age of attraction spectrum limitation. If you could push a button to make everybody just not be attracted to anyone 5 years or 6 years older or 6 years younger, would you push the button?
No.
So part of you likes that we want to color outside the lines, even though it's also leads things to be more immoral.